The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Taylor Rapp has officially signed.
I don't think he started caliber.
Mike Danger.
Gino Cash.
Yeah.
And Fat Wallet White Johnson.
Then welcome to the Sports Bar.
Gene Battaglia.
When it comes to our identity as a sports town, it is the Buffalo Bills at what? Do you want to say 90, 95%? That's what moves the needle, and then everything else. I'm not exaggerating.
Romero dribbles in. Shot blocked! Oh my goodness, what a rejection by Anthony Edwards to save the game!
Dude smashed his dome on the rim.
It's hurting real bad, and I landed on my wrist.
As Karl Anthony Towns was reportedly opting for surgery on his left meniscus.
Sabres fall 4-2 to the Predators.
The NHL trade deadline.
We have a trade to announce.
A Pozo deal.
The Florida Panthers!
Amerks Crunch, starting at 7 tonight.
Playoff-bound Tigers.
Go Tigers!
Your opponent being Robert Morris.
It's a great night to be a Tiger.
Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs?
For us, it's going to be just focusing on ourselves, getting off to a good start.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Welcome in to the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia, ready to kick off your sports weekend. Appreciate you stopping by at 95.7 FM, AM 950. The Fan Rochester and the free-to-download Odyssey app, where we sound our best, your smart device, when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. And we have our stream up. You can watch the Sports Bar at The Fan Rochester on Twitch and our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe while you're there. I am Fat Wallet White Johnson. That is Gino Cash. Just peeling them off, baby. Ready for the weekend.
Gino, how did we come up on that yesterday? I don't even remember.
Because the agent wanted to be described as tight end guru. Yeah. We were talking about the quid pro quo that happens between agents and NFL insiders, and one of those things being, hey, when you get the message out, make sure you label me as tight end guru. That's fine, but moving forward, I would like to be known as Fat Wallet Wide Johnson, if that's okay. He's Gino Cash. And
I'm Gino Cash.
We will move forward, and if you want to refer to us as that, it would be much appreciated. We'll continue to deliver a high quality of sports talk for the Flower City as long as you agree to those terms.
I don't think this is quite like the country singer becoming Chris Gaines, where it was something completely different. I like to think Fat Wallet Johnson is kind of like Mike Danger.
Fat Wallet Wide Johnson. Thank you very much.
Right.
Let's get it right, Gino Cash. We've got a great show lined up for you. A couple of great guests here stopping by to talk some Buffalo Bills, and it's been a week to remember. You know, Elena's been on the beat for the Bills here for a couple of years. Elena Getzenberg from ESPN. I imagine that covering the Damar Hamlin story was taxing and memorable, but what happened on Wednesday has to be up there as far as some of the most crazy, one of the craziest days that she's had on the beat covering the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, these were guys who were longtime starters on the Buffalo Bills. If you're talking about Jordan Poyer, Tre'Davious White, Mitch Morse. So we're trying to figure out where the Bills go from here. That's going to be one of the themes of the show here today, because guess what happens on Monday? You're going to read, free agency begins on Wednesday. No, it doesn't. It begins on Monday. Legal tampering. And from those agents, like the tight end guru, we're going to be getting this avalanche of signings coming up Monday. How big can the Buffalo Bills attack free agency now? Elena Getzenberg covers the Buffalo Bills, ESPN's NFL Nation. She joins us in the 4 o'clock hour.
And they haven't made the Josh Allen deal yet, right? They haven't restructured the deal yet.
No, all it takes is just one click, and that's it.
That's pretty much it.
And part of the reason we may not know this is because, Josh Allen's agent might not be sending out notices to everybody that this actually happened. It might already happen for all we know.
Sure. Sal Majorana of the DNC will stop by later on this hour. Give us about 20 minutes or so, and we'll catch up with Sal on this week's activities with the Buffalo Bills as well.
Yeah, so Elena's been on the beat now for, 3 years maybe? She's coming up on... Sal's been here since the 1990s.
Yeah.
In fact, the late 80s. We'd have to ask him again when he first got on the beat. And the only day I can compare what happened on Wednesday was Bills lose, Music City Miracle. If you're too young to remember that game, that was the home run throwback and the last playoff game before the drought. Well, the week after, it's like, whoa, not one, not two, but 3 guys who would end up in the Hall of Fame all cut. Thurman Thomas, Bruce Smith, and Andre Reed. And as the story goes, Thurman learned about that from the ESPN scroll. Can you imagine that? And he got so angry, he signed with Miami.
I was going to say, that makes that move a little bit more satisfying. Oh, really? You're not going to tell me? I have to read about it on ESPN, find out about it on TV? Let me sign with the chief rival here.
Yeah, so Sal was around that day. We will talk to him, of course, about what the Bills should do here coming up in free agency in the draft. We have not talked to him in a few weeks. Sal Mayorana, Democrat and Chronicle coming up.
We have time for your calls throughout the course of the afternoon as well. You can join us at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326. Easiest way to interact with us, Elon's Twitter. That's X, at the Fan Rochester. Love engaging with you there. And Gino, I was happy to wake up this morning and see a notification from you that you mentioned me as a big winner last night.
Did you stay up for that?
I didn't, but I had a good feeling. When Luka hit the triple-double, and I'm like, all right, now all that needs to happen is Jokic. Jokic get the triple-double against Boston. I mean, that's going to be a competitive game. You just know he's going to. I almost went to bed knowing I was going to hit that parlay. I just said Luka and Jokic on TNT. It's Thursday night. These stars are going to show up, and they did. And Daddy's got a little extra. What do you call it? Flash cash.
That's it.
How many boxes of wine can I get for plus $9.50?
It depends on how much money you put down on plus $9.50 is the correct answer here, Mike Danger. That's fantastic. You called that one yesterday, and Luka ended up with 11 rebounds. See, that's the funny thing. Like, that helps ratings. Can you imagine Mike Danger sitting up there? Come on, Daddy needs another assist. Come on.
I want steak for dinner this weekend. Let's go. Come on, Jokic. I don't care about you don't want to go to the parade. I need to know that you're going to get that triple-double.
You said after the Lakers win, you said you were surprised that you didn't feel more. So I'm curious what you are feeling right now, and if you're looking forward to a parade coming up in Denver.
When is parade? When is parade?
Thursday.
No. I need to go home. Okay.
No. What is Mike Danger bet? No. Yeah, that was fun. So anyways, X is where you can reach out to us simply this afternoon at the Fan Rochester. I'm fired up, man. We got a nice weekend in front of us. I know
you and I have completely different plans tonight. I have my game face on. Now, we're all down about hockey and the state of the Sabres, and I get that. I got a playoff game tonight, buddy. We got the Tigers tonight. This team, buddy, it's game one of the quarterfinals. Robert Morris, come here. Cannot wait.
I am taking a different path. I'm going to visit one of our friends, Three Heads Brewing. We're going to go to Three Heads tonight, and one of our regulars, Yacht Rock John, Captain Obvious on the bass of Yacht Club, performing tonight at Three Heads. So I got the entire neighborhood involved. I had to reach out to Richie C, and we put together the game plan. I'm like, who's in? Can we get ourselves a little bit of a crew here? You know the name. I've talked about him before, right?
I refresh my memory.
All right. There's Tony. There's Doug. There's Nikki G. There's Cuse. There's Tony. There's Joey Dryer Sheets. There's Tom. There's Mike. There's Timmy Parmesan. There's Tony. I mentioned Richie C. There's Nikki Eye Drops. There's Tony. Rob the Takesman. Frank. Tony. Nikki Signs. Sammy the Bull. And, oh, God, I always forget the guy.
Tony. And you haven't yet met Tony Gazzetta yet. He lives on the street next to you.
You know why I haven't met him yet? Because he's Italian! I'm sorry, that didn't work out right.
No, that's the opposite. That's a whole. That's everybody.
Right. No, I got to work on Tony Gazzetta. Yeah, so the Tonys and the neighborhood, we're all going to go out and support our buddy Yacht Rock John, who supports us here every day in the sports bar. We appreciate him, and we're gonna have a little smooth sailing tonight at Three Heads Brewing. I'm not gonna lie, Gino.
Are they going to call you up on stage?
I hope not, but if they want me to sing a little Benny Mardones, I might get up there.
Listen, somebody's got to record that. If Mike Danger goes up on stage, like, okay, Benny Mardones, what other Yacht Rock songs could you do?
I don't know that they do Benny Mardones in their set, Gino, but if they did, I would get up there after a few IPAs. It wouldn't be very smooth.
Ambrosia. You could do Ambrosia.
I could do Ambrosia, yeah.
Looking Glass. You could do Brandy.
Brandy, she's a fine girl. Yeah. My life, my love, and my lady is the sea. I mean, who's gonna come? Who's gonna fight that? Nobody. My life, my love, and my lady is the sea. Brandy, stay down. What a fine wife she would be.
What a song that is dated.
Yes. Oh yeah. Let's play that on International Women's Day. Hey, Brandy, sling me some drinks. You stay in this small little harbor town because my life, my love, and my lady is the sea.
And she loves a man who's not around.
Oh, yes, perfect. Yes, great. Absolutely. No, it's hard to see our boys in Yacht Club perform and not smile. If I'm not mistaken, they start their set with Ride Captain Ride, and it's just so corny. It's such a corny song, but when you hear it, I'm smiling. I'm not laughing because they're brilliant. They're really, really good, and the songs, they execute them, and it's awesome, and I love it. But man, it just brings a big smile to my face.
Yeah, hey, in a day where we're touching 50 and everything, to me, I got to be in a certain type of mood to listen to that. Normally, outside, having a drink, dude, you're going to have a blast tonight.
You don't have to be in any sort of mood if you feel like being smooth, Gino. We're going to have a great time. That's tonight. And then, look, we should probably discuss what has happened here because the NHL did have a trade deadline. I made a bold prediction earlier this week that a white guy would get traded, and it turns out that several happened throughout the course of the NHL trade deadline window here. The Sabres moved on from a couple of players today.
Kyle Pozo goes to Florida, and that he was in the last year of his deal. Maybe this is the last year of his career. What do the Sabres get back in return? The answer is not much. They got back a seventh rounder from the Panthers. When do seventh? Well, Kyle Pozo. Look, you weren't going to get anything from him.
Do you think Pozo is going to be active during the postseason? Do you think they'll make him active on game days?
Nope.
He's going to be watching from the press box?
No, but it's danger. It's something where we have to come to grips of who's coming out of the East. Florida's always there. They've been knocking on the door. Will this be the year where you actually get the Cup coming down to South Florida? Not one, not two, but now three former Buffalo Sabres in part of this, hoisting the cup
and
there.
Playing their best hockey. I mean, like what Montour is doing, what Reinhart is doing. I mean, they look amazing. And I know a lot of that is the cast they have around them. But man, that change of scenery did them some good. And that's just frustrating, maddening. And then Eric Johnson. I don't think anybody's shedding any tears that Eric Johnson is headed to Philadelphia. That's that might go down as one of the worst offseason acquisitions in recent Sabres memory. I don't think anybody is upset to see that guy go. He was not very good.
No, he's at the end of the line, and now he's going to play for somebody who was his coach in Columbus, Philadelphia. So you get a fourth rounder. Kale Saljan, is that how we say his name? I'm not familiar with him because, well, he plays for the Charlotte Checkers. He's the defenseman you would assume is coming to Rochester as he was the throw-in basically in the opposing.
Well, I appreciate that they kept Johnson inactive here the last couple of games just so that they didn't tank his trade value here. They could actually get something of value in return. He heads to Philadelphia. And the Sabres drop another one last night. Although the kid Byram gets a goal in his first shot, wearing the blue and the gold. So if there's a silver lining, I guess you don't get any points for that. We're not going to hang a banner for Bo Byram getting his first Sabres goal in his first game with the team. But we'll see how that continues to progress. And by addition, by subtraction, you move on from Johnson, you bring in Byram. At some point here, Samuelson hopefully can stay healthy in the future, not necessarily the near future, but in the future, and you can have a blue line that's sturdy. I think that what was the other news you were sharing? That Ryan Johnson
is the guy who's on a clear day. Yes. So to me, this is more toward us. This is the day, the trade deadline day, that if you want guys to be sent down for the American Hockey League playoffs, well, they have to be sent down today. So Ryan Johnson, really only a paperwork move. He'll be probably back up with the Sabres tomorrow, but if you put him on the Emmerich roster today, that means that he's eligible to come back down. And since Devin Levi's already here, he'll be your goaltender, I would figure, for the postseason. He needs more work. Kind of got upset last year that UPL was the guy, Danger, that they didn't put on the clear day roster. And look, Malcolm Subban had a good run for the Amerks, and I don't know if that ended up costing the Amerks or not. Side note today, Subban got traded. He goes from the St. Louis organization to the Columbus he's now a Cleveland Monster.
Oh, we're going to see him in the postseason, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty good. He's a pretty good AHL goaltender. Well, that's all kind of shaping up here, assuming that the Amerks make a postseason run, and you love hearing that Ryan Johnson will be a part of that, provided he stays healthy here the rest of the season in Buffalo. The other, what was the other bit of news that I was going to get to here? Oh, I know what it was. It's Russell Wilson. It's Russell Wilson making the rounds.
Well,
supposedly.
So we knew they was going to take a visit with the Steelers and taking a pit stop in New Jersey to meet with the Giants. This sounds an awful lot like another veteran who kind of took a world tour and everybody listened to. And then he ended up getting a big deal with a team he didn't even meet during the world tour. I'm talking about OBJ. Like, to me, if you are just a good GM, like they have, I think, good management in Pittsburgh. I do like Joe Shane down with the Giants. You're taking the meeting. You're going to talk to Russell Wilson. Why wouldn't you?
The difference is between this and OBJ is that OBJ actually wanted to make a lot of money. I think Russell Wilson is going to have to settle for a Veterans League minimum this season, knowing that Denver is paying what they're paying him. And if you're able to do that, if you're a team and you're able to get Russell Wilson on a vet minimum, that makes Russell Wilson all of a sudden intriguing. Except, and this is the asterisk. You have to deal with all of the Russ BS and the stuff that got him basically kicked out of Denver. Is the stuff that's going to make it real hard for a team to get excited about signing Russell Wilson, even at that veteran minimum, because the baggage, the idea that the guy is such a fraud, so corny, so not loved by his teammates. You think about, we'll just compare Russell Wilson to Justin Fields. Let's just compare those two right now, assuming that they're both available and that a team could have one or the other. You've got one guy who's on the end of his career, who's made all of this money, but doesn't have a lot of recent success to show for it. He just hasn't been good. And on top of that, you never really hear coaches or players say great things about Mr. Unlimited. And then on the other hand, you have Justin Fields, who every teammate he's ever played for vouches for the guy. Like, we want to play for that guy. We love that guy. I think that, and he's younger, and he's got his whole career. Now, he might not be as decorated as Russell Wilson, and he may never be as decorated as Russell Wilson. Pete Carroll turned out to be one hell of a deodorant for Russell Wilson during his time in Seattle. But Russell Wilson needs to cut the S, I think, is what this comes down to.
Well, and I did think he dialed it back a little bit in Denver last year, but it also might have been they were just so kind of off the radar. We weren't paying attention to him. Not really sure. But my point being, Danger, yes, what you're saying is correct. The Mr. Unlimited stuff, that persona's got to go out the door there, or high knees or whatever it was.
If you can win games, be a superhero.
Well,
take that persona. If you're winning games, you can get away with it.
What coaches don't like are players who freelance. And you listen to people who covered the Denver Broncos and before the Seattle Seahawks, and if the play is designed just for a short gain, Russ would run around and do his Russ things. Let Russ cook. Let Russ cook. That's what all Seahawks fans are saying. You know what? Pete Carroll got sick of that.
Yeah.
But rather than Pete Carroll just took the high road. Okay, you're out of here. Like, that doesn't play with a Sean Payton. If the play is designed for a quick slant and you're running around and you can't read that, this is why. Why did he fall to the third round?
I remember when it turned for Russell Wilson, and it happened in Seattle. Do you remember there was a report out of practice where Russell Wilson...
See, I have a different answer, but you go ahead.
Russell Wilson in practice reportedly, threw an errant pass, got picked off back in the day by Richard Sherman in practice, and Sherman got pissed, and he threw the ball back at Wilson. He said, "Man, you suck!" And he just got mad at Russell Wilson because Russell Wilson, and at that point, like, Russell couldn't handle the criticism. Like, we're teammates. And from that point on, there was always a fracture between the Seahawks offense and the Seahawks defense because Richard Sherman called out Russell Wilson for being the fraud that he has been and that he was. and he's never really been the same.
Well, that's maybe he and his teammates. I'm thinking of when Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll had their fracture. And I'll go to the end of the story. The end of the story was the pandemic Super Bowl, and here's our Walter Payton Man of the Year, Russell Wilson. Yay. And he's got a sour puss. He is pissed. He doesn't look like he wants to be there because he's looking at Tom Brady, somebody who's in the Super Bowl. Well, dial it back. It actually was the Buffalo Bills who had a part in this. The Bills destroyed Russell Wilson.
He had great stats that season until they got to Buffalo.
So Russell Wilson is thinking, this is my MVP year. Finally, I'm going to get the MVP. And you read stories that the MVP for Russell Wilson was just as important, if not more important, than the Super Bowl. That's freaking wrong. So what does Pete Carroll have to do after that loss?
Gone.
Enough. No, we're going to run the ball, and you're going to do it like this. And the Seahawks go after that point because Russ checks out because he is not coachable. Russ Wilson is not coachable. So I would be shocked if he landed in Pittsburgh. He's not going to the Giants unless he's going to be a backup there for Daniel Jones. He is a quarterback that needs to prove himself, and I don't know he can change.
Yeah, and that's it. And a lot of the change that we're talking about not even happening on the field. It's some of the off-field stuff and his ability off the field and how he carries himself around his teammates, around his coaches, that I think most people around the league have a problem with. So it's really going to take a team sitting him down and saying, hey, we're interested in you, but we're interested in you at this number. And by the way, cut the S. No more. It's done. You're going to do things the way we want them done. And in that regard, I would say that the Steelers would make sense because Tomlin is the kind of coach that won't put up with it. Tomlin, like Pete Carroll, has dealt with a lot of personality.
That you would think, but Russ has been getting by in his whole career because there hasn't been anybody looking over his shoulder.
Yeah.
That's also part of it.
Well, and then that's why I don't think he goes in Pittsburgh is because Russ wants a clear path to start. He doesn't want to back up for anybody, and he certainly doesn't want to compete. You got to tell me I got to come in here and compete with somebody for a starting job? There are opportunities for him right now where he could be your week one starter. Clear path. He's the guy. And I think that's where Russ goes before we talk about him going to a New York or a Pittsburgh where he would have to compete for that starting role.
Yeah, so what this Russ Wilson tour is, it's not only do you need one team, you actually need two teams. You need two teams to kind of get a better offer. And I don't know if he's at the top of the list of all these free agents, Danger.
He's definitely not. If you wanted to list the available quarterbacks right now in free agency, I would say you're probably going. It's probably Kirk Cousins, number one. Fields is who am I forgetting? Fields is not number two. Fields is like three. Mm-hmm. Gino, who am I forgetting? Why am I blanking on the other quarterbacks that are available right now? Russ is not. I put.
Well,
Fields.
you have. We think Brissett's going to the Patriots. We've got Tannehill and Flacco.
Oh, I know who I was going to put at number two, right behind Cousins. I put Mayfield. I'd say Baker Mayfield.
I'm not even considering him.
You're considering that he's going to stay in Tampa, and I'm saying, hey, because they haven't announced anything and they haven't gotten a deal done yet, I'm not willing to say right away that he's going to be a free agent. They didn't franchise tag him. It's in his best interest to see what other teams offer him, and he will. I would put him just behind Cousins. I would put Fields at 3, and I would probably say Russ is maybe the 4th best available quarterback.
I'd agree because putting Fields ahead of Russell Wilson because, well, we still don't know what Justin Fields is. We think we might know, but if he ends up in a different system, I'd rather take the upside and the chance with Justin Fields.
On X, at the fan Rochester, UPS driver Josh, one of our regulars, reaching out. Fat Wallet Wide Johnson would make a great Xbox gamer tag. Josh, who says it isn't. Also, Brian, one of our regulars from East Tilton. We don't call it North Greece. It's East Tilton. We're East Siders. I know no one cares when you're right. Oh, Brian's a Bronco fan. I know no one cares when you're right. But at 3 heads during the draft last year, I told Danger that Russ wouldn't be the starter for the whole season and would be out at the end of the season. Broncos country, let's ride. He did. I remember that conversation. He did.
Yeah. Brian, you called your shot there. We got to get to Sal Mayorana
Yeah,
here.
Sal joins us next. We'll talk some Buffalo Bills. 866-4FAN if you want to pull up a stool. 866-4326.
You're listening to the Sports Bar. update.
The NHL trade deadline has passed. The Buffalo Sabres making a couple deals. Kyle Pozo goes to Florida. This for a 7th-round pick. And defenseman Kali Shalin. Shalin was with the Charlotte Checkers. Eric Johnson gets traded to Philadelphia. This for a 4th-round pick. Amherst hockey tonight. The team hosting Syracuse, the front end of the home and home. Seth Appert on the opponent.
We've got to increase our level of physicality against them. We have to win more puck battles. It doesn't matter how talented you are if you don't have the darn puck. We haven't had the puck enough, and we're losing too many faceoffs, too many puck battles. So we need to increase that. We need to increase our level of physicality on them to force more turnovers, to try to catch them in moments where they're out of their structure.
Don Stevens, Andrew Mossbrooks will have your call beginning at 7. RIT hockey tonight. It's game 1 of the Atlantic Hockey quarterfinals. Robert Morris, the opponent. Gene Battaglia, the Fan, Rochester.
Straight up with no chaser. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
I'm going to be obviously stepping into a bigger role, and that's something that I take pride in, and like I kind of touched on the last few questions is last year was a little different for me looking than the rest of my career. My first 4 years, I was used to used to being the guy in the starter, and I'm looking forward to getting back into that role.
There's Buffalo Bills safety Taylor Rapp, one of the 12 players that had their lives affected on Wednesday, the Buffalo Bills, in a transformational day. We bring in Sal Mayorana of the DNC to talk some Buffalo Bills. And Sal, you've covered this team a real long time. Where does Wednesday rank in terms of just the overall volume and activity and how memorable this day is going to go down as?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty action-packed, I will say. I was kind of surprised by a couple of the moves. I mean, everyone keeps bringing up the day in 2000 when they cut Andre Reed, Bruce Smith, and Thurman Thomas. That was a little bit different than this. That's 3 Hall of Fame all-time greats. There's no Hall of Fame all-time greats in this group, but some very good players. So, yeah, the Bills have clearly turned a page. They're making a statement here that, it hasn't been good enough these last 5 years, especially the last 4, and these guys have all been there for that. And they need to get younger, and they need to save some money, and they made some tough calls. So we'll see where it goes, but I got to say, I was a little bit surprised by a couple of them.
Yeah, the one I was really surprised, Mitch Morse, for many reasons, Sal. It's like, yes, I know he's on the wrong side of 30, but that offensive line, when was the last time we actually knew left to right, these were the guys that are all going to return, same 5, and now they're going to rely on McGovern, a guy who hasn't played center, and David Edwards, left guard. Boy, I hope they're right here, Sal.
Yeah, I know. That was one of the things you came out of last season. The line played every game together. Nobody got hurt, and they were all under contract for 2024. So you figure that was a real positive, a strength. And now they've kind of upset it a little bit. I was fully on board with giving Morse, some kind of extension or at least tacking on some void years to lessen his cap hit, because I think the guy can still play. But I guess their thinking is, look, he's 32. He's going to cost us a lot of money now or later. Even if we push the money, let's move on now. What I don't quite get is, this could change. I mean, they could draft somebody for all we know that they try to plug in at center. But moving Connor McGovern, who I don't think has played center in the NFL, I'm not positive on that, but I don't think he has. That seems like a weird move to me. And then you're going to rely on David Edwards to play left guard. I think Edwards is a good player, but I kind of liked him as the number 6 guy, as the interior backup. But we'll see. They know more than me, Gene. So maybe this was the plan all along, and they know they can do this.
Sal, we just heard from Taylor Rapp, who is going to embrace that larger role. It's clear he's going to be one of the guys that they lean on in the secondary there for the Buffalo Bills. Poyer gets released as well. A little bit on Poyer and your level of surprise to that move, and then also what did your eyes see with Taylor Rapp? And my impression might be different than Gene's impression, and maybe it's different than your impression as well. I view Rapp very similar to how I viewed Jordan Poyer his first year in Buffalo, somebody that, when given the opportunity, kind of stepped up and made the most of it.
Nope.
No, I'm saying for this upcoming season.
Yeah, the Poyer move too is, he had the 1 year left, and my thought process, and I even told him this when on locker cleanout day. I basically ordered his locker and I said, "There's no way they're going to cut you. I mean, because we know Micah's not coming back." And he goes, "Don't be so sure." And he was right.
Yeah.
But my thought was it would be awful hard to move on from both of those guys in the same off season. I mean, the transition would have been eased a little bit if you bring Poyer back. But here again, he's 30. I think he's 33, and he was going to cost a lot of money. You don't want to extend him because you don't want to push more money into the future with a guy that age. So I guess I could see it, but I think it's a scary time at safety. When you've got the same two guys for 7 years, there was an awful lot of, there's a great comfortability factor with those two guys. So I was on board with bringing back Rapp. When they signed him last year, I loved the move. I thought that's exactly why they signed him. Give him 1 year to prove that he can be the replacement for one of these guys. And quite frankly, I was sort of underwhelmed by what he did this year. But I also think that was because, he didn't have a full-time role. When he was with the Rams, he was a starter. And I think it was tough for him to, get into this role of being a backup, the occasional starter. So maybe with a full year in the system, and now he goes in with the starting job, maybe it will get more out of him. But I think it was an interesting move that they signed him last year, and this is why they did it. And I was kind of glad that they brought him back for this new contract.
Sal Majorana, Democrat and Chronicle, as Monday legal tampering begins, but we're still trying to figure out, what actually happened this past week. If Mitch Morse was a surprise, I'm going to give you another surprise. How did Brandon Beane sell or renegotiate to Von Miller? Sal, was there a threat maybe perhaps that, hey, the Bills were going to do what we thought was unthinkable, we just take this massive dead cap figure and walk away from Von Miller? Your thoughts on Von kind of giving some money back?
Yeah, they were never going to walk away from the contract. There's no way they were going to eat that. They can do that next year at a far more palatable price. I think this year, I don't know this for a fact, but it is technically possible that he could be suspended by the NFL for whatever happened back in October during whatever it was, the bye week in December there. That's a possibility. And this would save the Bills a little bit of money up front. And then if he doesn't get suspended, then he'll have the chance to make some of the money back in incentives, which is how the contract is written now. Again, I don't know where that case stands. Bean, we asked him about it at the Combine. He said nothing's changed. As far as they know, it's moving forward and nothing's going to be happening. But it might have been written this way in case he does get suspended. That way the Bills will save some money at that time. If he doesn't get suspended, then he has a chance to earn some of the money back. I give him credit for agreeing to a pay cut because there's nothing in the books that says he's going to meet these incentives because I think he's a seriously declined player. So he actually did the Bills a favor by doing this, and they're going to save, I think, $8 or $9 million in the cap this year. That's pretty good.
Yeah. What about Trey White and the post-June 1st designation for the first draft pick of Sean McDermott's tenure with the Buffalo Bills? We know how much he meant to the organization, and now we look ahead and think, all right, it's going to be Douglas Benford and maybe Kyer Elam fighting for those two starting corner spots.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I never believed for a second that they were going to bring Trey White back, not after the two injuries. He's just never going to be the same player, and it's way too much money. And the post-June 1 makes a lot of sense to me because they're going to save more on the contract. I think I want to say it's $6 million if they did it now and maybe 8 or 9 by doing it post-June 1. And, people are saying, well, it doesn't help the Bills right now. No, it doesn't because that money has to stay on the cap. However, if you recall, last June, that's when they signed Leonard Floyd to his contract. There are going to be free agents that'll be available in June, and that money they save on Trey White can be applied at that time. So I think it was a real smart move to free up some additional cap space that they can just utilize a little bit later in free agency.
Sal Majorana, our guest here, talking about Bills free agency, which really begins on Monday. These conversations are happening, Sal. And going to Spot Track right now, they say the Bills have right now $10.4 million in space. That's without this, what we're expecting, a Josh Allen, hey, we're going to convert the base here to a bonus. Josh doesn't have to agree to it. They just kind of do it. You're going to kick the can down the road. If the Bills actually end up doing that, how big do you think this team attacks free agency?
Well, yeah, I mean, they're going to get $22 million just by doing Josh, and they could extend Deion Dawkins and maybe even Taron Johnson. So he's in a position now, after he made these hard decisions, to free up space where he could really free up some notable cap space. And I think they're going to use it. I mean, you know, you got rid of a star safety, well, and you're losing the other one to, you know, his contract's up. I still think you might have to go out and sign a veteran safety to go with Taylor Rapp. Maybe they bring a center in. You know, that whole Connor McGovern movie, maybe that was just a smokescreen. Wide receivers a possibility. Obviously, defensive line, they've got to make moves, you know, at the edge and tackle. You can't draft all those kids. I mean, they've got basically their whole defensive line they need to replenish. So he's creating the opportunity to do that, and I think he'll have to do it both in free agency and the draft. So I'm curious. I mean, every year he tells us the same thing. Oh, we're not going to do anything. And then here we go.
Yeah.
They're going to be probably almost as active as any other team on Monday and Tuesday.
So, Sal, we know that if they sign a player who's been released by another team here before the league year starts, it won't count against their comp pick formula, which is something that I know that they want to try and take advantage of. And then there's also the guys that are pending free agents that you can try to sign, like you did with Rapp, like you did with David Edwards. Do you see any more guys that are outgoing free agents that the Bills could, you know, I'm specifically thinking of Daquan Jones on this one, somebody that they might still be able to sign before the league year gets underway?
Yeah, I mean, to me, Daquan Jones is a priority. I mean, if you can get him back, that's a guy that they know, and I know he's 32 years old, but when he played last year, he was really good. So I think they are going to try to get him back, and it might only take, I think he made $7 million last year. I think they could get him back for pretty close to that same amount, maybe on a one-year deal. I don't know what his market's going to be outside of Buffalo. It might be better than we think, but I think they could get him back on a pretty reasonable deal, especially with the money they've opened up here. So I would definitely look for that. As far as other guys they could bring back, I don't think a whole lot of big. You know, I think it's a chance to get Ty Johnson back, who I liked.
Epinesa?
Epinesa, it's possible. I think Spot Track had him at like 2 years, $11 million. I mean, if that ends up being the case, that's probably doable for the Bills now. So maybe they think about it, but I think he'll get more than that. I think some team is probably going to say that's a 25-year-old guy who's played 4 years in the league, and he's been a pretty good pass rusher these last 2 years at least. He might have priced himself out. Leonard Floyd's not coming back. Maybe Cam Lewis. I mean, lower-end guys with the Bills they could do, but I'm not thinking that, you know, like Gabe Davis is gone. I guess Trent Sherfield's possible. They could bring him back. But the rest of those guys, I think they're all gone. Tyrell Dodson is probably going to get a decent deal somewhere. And I don't think he'd want to come back because now he'd be going back to a reserve role. And I think he got a little bit of a taste last year, and he's going to want to go see if he can compete for a starting job. So, yeah, I'm not sure that maybe 5 or 6 guys they would possibly bring back out of their free agent group.
Yeah, I'm wondering like how much money Gabe Davis is going to get here because you want to bring back your guys. But Sal, I'm looking at the list of free agent wide receivers. Like there's not a lot out there, and by some estimates, he's in the top 3 with Calvin Ridley and Marquise Brown. These are not guys that are going to move the needle, and they're all going to get paid. I guess my question is this: if Davis kind of moves on, would you like to see the Bills bring in, say, a Curtis Samuel or just somebody like that, just in case the plan to draft a wide receiver or in the early rounds doesn't actually come to fruition here?
Yeah, Gabe Davis is going to get a job. He's going to get paid. Like, he's 25 years old. I mean, he's got a nice resume. He drove people nuts in Buffalo because he felt like he was inconsistent. But you look at his numbers. I mean, his numbers were pretty good for a 4th-round draft pick. That was not a bad draft pick for the Bills at all. And other teams are going to see that he's a very good run blocker. He can make plays. He's going to get paid, and he's not going to get paid by the Bills, I don't think. I think the Bills have got to draft a guy without question, maybe 2, but certainly a guy in the 1st or 2nd round. Maybe you get a guy a little bit later, and they still need to bring a free agent in. I mean, Curtis Samuel was actually a guy that I had on my list of 5 guys they might be interested in. That could work. It'll depend on the price, of course. But I think if it's not going to be Trent Sherfield, who would be the 5th guy, they probably need to go outside to get a veteran and then certainly draft at least one guy.
All right, Sal, with the Combine in mind and knowing that it just occurred last week and we had a chance to hear from some of these guys and see some of these guys go through the drills and go through the rigors of the Combine, is there one guy that you think Brandon Beane can't leave Detroit without at the wide receiver position?
No, there's a bunch of them. I mean, we don't even watch that stuff, Gene. I'm not even. We're not allowed in the my level of reporting. We're not allowed in the Lucas Oil, so I don't even watch the drills. I'm not even sure the teams really care all that much about the drills. They're not there. They're there for the medical and to talk to the kids. So no, there's like 14 or 15 guys that could go in the first, 2 rounds and then maybe into the third a little bit. The top 3 everyone knows about, they're going to be gone before Buffalo picks. They could stay at 28 and take one. I wouldn't be wasting time moving up to get a guy because there's so many guys that are good, really good players. If I'm him, I'd stay put at 28, maybe even trade down if you wanted and get somebody in the upper part of the second round. But there's going to be a bunch of them that'll be available if he wants to go that way. I've been saying right along, he might have to pick a defensive lineman in the first round. It might be an edge rusher that they take in the first round and get the receiver in the second because there's so many guys to choose from. So, again, we don't know. We have no clue what their inclination is, what their scouts are saying. I do know this. They're going to get a couple good players in the first and second round.
Sal Mayorana, Democrat and Chronicle, also covers the New York Yankees. You can sign up for his newsletter. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you a Yankee question here, Sal, because, hey, it is spring training. It is a division right now that I don't think the Red Sox are going to be anything. Who knows about Tampa? Baltimore, new owner. They bring in Corbin Burns. What's your outlook for the Yankees here in 2024?
Yeah, I obviously follow it very closely, read a lot of the New York coverage, and I just don't get why everyone's so high on the Yankees. I don't. There's been a lot of projections that have them winning the division over Baltimore. I just don't see it with their age on offense. I mean, they were such a horrible offense last year. And, okay, you added Juan Soto. Well, Juan Soto still only bats once around the order. It's not like he's going to bat 5 times, every 9 times, So I just don't see how the Yankees are going to be so much better on offense just because of one player. And their starting rotation is, to me, highly questionable. So I think they will contend for a playoff berth. I don't think they're good enough to beat the Orioles and maybe not the Blue Jays. So hopefully they get into the wild card mix. But, yeah, you're going to have to prove it to me before I start seeing 95, 96 wins from that team. But, hey, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I'm going to be.
Sal, we're also paying attention to the Amerks today. The NHL trade deadline passed at 3. We know that that's going to have some effect on what happens with Rochester and their lineup here coming up as the postseason approaches. Tell us a little bit about the coverage you're providing on the Rochester Americans here locally.
Yeah, I've been trying. I do a weekly column, Gene. I go over there. I try to get over there at least once a week for a game, and just compile notes and give people some weekly coverage. We're not really covering the games, every game. Obviously, we'll do that when the playoffs start. So I'm trying to give people a taste and keep them informed a little bit. Unfortunately, the readership is not great because people just don't pay attention to a Bills writer covering the Amerks. My Twitter feed does no good when I'm trying to publicize the article. So maybe this will help. Maybe this will help steer people back to the DNC. But look, they're an interesting team. They got to get going though, right? I mean, they had a nice start to the season, and right now they're in a bit of a lull. They've played a tough part of their schedule. They're in a bit of a slump. They're dropping in the standings, so they've got to turn it around because the Sabres really need this group to go back to the playoffs and at least do what it did last year and get some experience in the postseason. I think it was pretty helpful. They got a ways to go, though. I mean, they're in a spot right now, but that division is so tight that going through a stretch that they just went through, they've already dropped down a couple pegs, so they need to get it turned back around here.
Last one, Sal, and I'll ask a question probably you don't maybe not know the answer to, but we're just curious since you are kind of the golf guy here in town. hearing anything at Oak Hill, maybe? It was, only 14 months ago we had a major, and they still haven't yet to dish out here on the PGA Tour, the PGA Championship future dates here. Any whispers we're hearing?
I haven't heard a thing. I know that obviously they're doing the U.S. Amateur, and is it 27 or 28? I think it's 27. Is it 27? I'm not even sure now, because I know I'll be retired by then, guys, so I'm not going to have to worry about covering it. I kind of have put it out of my mind.
What did Marv Levy say about retirement, Sal? You can't talk about retirement. You're already retired here.
But I think by then I'll be officially on full-blown Social Security and Medicaid, so I'll be good to go. Well, obviously every 10 years, right?
Right.
So I guess 2033 would be the one you'd look at for Oak Hill, because they seem to be in that, 2003, 13, and 23. That makes sense to me.
Sal, it's great catching up with you as always, man. Appreciate the time. Hope you enjoy your weekend. Let's do it again soon.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
You got
Thanks,
it.
Sal.
Sal Mayer on a DNC.
Reset the sign.
Oh, I know. It's okay. Look,
It's all right.
I think he called me Gene twice because Fat Wallet Wide Johnson just doesn't roll off the tongue as easily.
I like that guy. Sal just
He's the best.
Yeah, he's
the best. He's a legend. He's an absolute legend. Very thankful that he could make some time for us here in the sports bar and talk some Buffalo Bills with us. Appreciate that. We'll get to I'll Drink to that next, Gino, and actually have a take, not just for the Buffalo Bills, but for any team not named Kansas City in the AFC. You should be doing this right now.
I've got a suggestion for Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott. And of all things, this came from a desk calendar today.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll explain here.
A desk calendar?
Yeah, those little things you rip off?
Yeah. I didn't. Yeah. I know they still make them, but you have one.
I got one.
You were gifted one.
Do you get this stuff? Because, you cover the Buffalo Bills. You must like the Buffalo Bills.
Give me the worst. Not the worst, but the strangest. I have something in mind. The strangest, white elephant Christmas gift that you've gotten. Like everybody, I want to believe that one golf from your toilet set was made and it's just been passed through to everybody. That's nobody has it. It just keeps getting handed off from family to family and family member to family member. Cross families when you do holiday parties, really, really off base white elephant gifts. Like we have the world's most incredible sponge, or the only sponge you'll ever need, or whatever. Like it's not even a sponge; it's like this rubbery thing, but it goes along the lines to what you're describing here. The desk calendar.
The desk calendar
feels like the white elephant gift that just gets passed on.
Well, I'm reading this fact about the Buffalo Bills. I'm like, wait a second. I'll explain here and how you can kind of shape the roster this year. And what was the low point of the Buffalo Bills drought? And are we at the low? We can call it the Sabre drought now, right? Are the Sabres going to get past the Bills at some point? Got some thoughts here on a franchise that right now is as low as I've seen it.
We'll have Elena Getzenberg from ESPN, NFL Nation, stopping by the sports bar here in about a half an hour or so as well. We'll talk more Buffalo Bills and take your calls at 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN.
You're listening to the Rochester, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan, Rochester, sports update.
Some breaking Buffalo Bills news is the team bringing back tight end Quinton Morris. It's a one-year deal. The expected third-round compensatory pick for Buffalo will not be a third rounder. It will actually be a fourth. We'll talk some Bills football later this hour. Elena Getzenberg, ESPN NFL Nation, will join us here in the Sports Bar. Today was the NHL trade deadline. The Sabres making a couple of moves. Captain Kyle Pozo heads to the Florida Panthers. This for a 7th-round pick and defenseman Kelly Shalin. Shalin was with the Charlotte Checkers. Meanwhile, Eric Johnson gets traded to Philadelphia. This for a 4th-round pick. Amerks sits the front end of the home and home with Syracuse tonight. Don Stevens, Andrew Mossbrooks will have your call beginning at 7 o'clock. RIT Hockey, Game 1 of the Atlantic Hockey quarterfinals. Robert Morris, the opponent. Gene Battaglia, The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Taylor Rapp has officially signed.
I don't think he started Caliber.
Mike Danger.
Gino Cash.
Yeah.
And Fat Wallet White Johnson.
Then welcome to the Sports Bar.
Gene Battaglia.
When it comes to our identity as a sports town, it is the Buffalo Bills. At what? Do you want to say 90, 95%? That's what moves the needle, and everything else? I'm not exaggerating.
Romero dribbles in. Shot blocked. Oh my goodness. What a rejection by Anthony Edwards to save the game.
Dude smashed his dome on the rim.
It's hurting real bad, and I landed on my wrist.
As Karl Anthony Towns was reportedly opting for surgery on his left meniscus.
Sabres fall 4-2 to the Predators.
The NHL trade deadline.
We have a trade to announce.
A Pozo deal.
The Florida Panthers.
Amerks Crunch starting at 7 tonight.
Playoff-bound Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Your opponent being Robert Morris.
It's a great night to be a Tiger.
Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs?
For us, it's going to be just focusing on ourselves, getting off to a good start.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
And just looking over the list of teams that are receiving the 2024 compensatory draft picks. The Eagles, the Rams, the Niners, just raking in extra draft picks. I mean, if you're the Rams, yeah, F them picks. We're going to get them back in compensatory draft picks. This is ridiculous. The Bills getting a 4th-round pick.
Yeah, and we asked smart people to explain this formula. I had no idea how to explain the formula, other than the fact that I think everybody was expecting the Bills to get a 3rd-rounder. And that when the Russell Douglas trade happened, remember, it was a pick swap. Hey, we're going to send you our 3rd-rounder, but you give us a 5th. That's okay, because we're going to get a 3rd-round pick. And no. That's not happening. It'll be pick number 133 at the end of the 4th round. So the Bills pick up an extra 4th rounder. Now, with all these picks, Danger, you can always move up here. The Jets actually end up with 3 extra picks, 1 in the 6th, 2 in the 7th. So basically, the long and the short of it is these are net losses for free agents you let go last year. So this is Tremaine Edmonds going out the door, but we thought Tremaine Edmonds, with what he was being paid at, the fact that he was a 1st-rounder, that would net the Bills a 3rd-round pick. Only 4 3rd-round picks went out. Jacksonville, Philadelphia, the Rams, and the Niners. The Niners are always on this list.
Yeah.
The Niners get a 3rd, they get a 4th, they get a 5th, they get a 6th. They get 4 compensatory picks. What did they lose?
It's crazy, right? Like, that's a good,
well-run organization.
It's a good, well-run organization. A lot of winning teams getting a lot of compensatory draft picks. It's important. It's almost like found picks. And the Bills getting 1, but you see teams like the Niners, teams like the Rams, teams like the Eagles, it feels like they're just always moving guys around.
Well, and I'm looking over this list right now. I don't see New England on this list, and I don't see Miami. Remember, Miami does not have a 3rd-round pick this year.
And the Jets are getting the what did you say, 6th and 7th-round picks?
Well, they're getting 1 in the 6th, 2 in the 7th.
Yeah, that's...
who cares?
That's Francesa. I mean, you're most likely going to have a hard time getting those guys on the field, but we'll see. So there you go. That, along with Quinton Morris re-signing with the Buffalo Bills. He was supposed to be exclusive rights free agent. Was that what he was?
I think so. So he wasn't going to go anywhere.
Yeah, it's a 1-year deal, and now maybe, I don't know if Quinton Morris was always your kind of like tight end 3 in this offense. Maybe he's the guy, because the move to release Morse I've been saying it wrong all week. I've been saying, that affects 2 spots on this offense. It really affects 3 when you factor in that Edwards was always that third kind of like tight end in their jumbo packages, their 3 tight end set. It was Edwards and not Quentin Morris. Maybe Quentin Morris now slides back into that role as the third tight end.
Maybe, but you can't have everybody active. So that's why it was always like, hey, our backup guard is actually going to serve as kind of this jumbo package sort of guy. Now you're going to have to keep 3 tight ends active. We'll see. But, yeah, that's one position the Bills don't have to worry about here. And Dawson Knox, if he can stay healthy. Dalton Kincaid, one of these up-and-coming tight ends. And Quentin Morris, kind of the lunch pail guy. Good to have him back.
Takes on tap before we get to Elena Getzenberg from ESPN. We'll talk some more Buffalo Bills here in the Sports Bar.
Yeah, I was mentioning how I have this desk calendar of the Buffalo Bills. Maybe you have it too, where you're just kind of ripping off the day. And Danger, if you have one of these, like, I haven't done this here in 2 weeks.
I was going to say, that would be me. It'll sit on my desk, I'll forget that it's there, and I'll look at it and be like, it's not January 3rd. What are we doing?
So it's one of those that it'll give you a trivia question, a fun fact. Here was the one from today. The Buffalo Bills franchise has returned a blocked field goal for a touchdown 4 times in their history, but the most recent being an 80-yard return by linebacker Cornelius Bennett in a victory over the Denver Broncos in 1990. For those not familiar, Cornelius Bennett came over in a blockbuster trade. He was the 2nd overall pick in 1987. Wow, how times have changed. Again, I'll read that. Linebacker picked number 2 overall, returned a touchdown playing special teams. Maybe the pendulum should swing back in the other direction if you're the Buffalo Bills. I am not suggesting, that Matt Milano plays special teams. I am suggesting, however, cut the crap with special team only guys like Tyler Matakevich. We're like, oh my gosh, we don't trust him. We got to go get AJ Klein. Stop. Maybe they will listen to this. Saran Neal was let go. I would not bring back Cam Lewis. Wouldn't surprise me if they did. But let's draft guys who can actually play offense and defense, not special teamers.
I just don't think, look, you'll get in certain situations starters out there. In this instance, let's talk about Cornelius Bennett. He's a big guy. And when you're talking about your field goal unit, your defensive field goal unit, you want guys that can get their arms up, their hands up, the big paw up, and try to block things, right? Tremaine Edmonds, I remember most recently being the guy that was always on the field to defend field goals, and he's a first-round draft pick, right? So I think in those situations, you get some of these guys that are specialists that can provide an advantage for you in the special teams game. I'm with you. I don't know, I'm sure Matakevich and Saran Neal and everybody that specialized in special teams brought something to the table. I have a feeling that it's not going to change, that guys like Cam Lewis or Quentin Morris, the aforementioned, will be guys that you primarily see on the field for kickoffs and kick returns. And, you'll have your own special guys to defend field goals, because I think you need a special kind of body to be out there to try and block some of those field goals. That doesn't surprise me. The Cornelius Bennett play, it doesn't surprise me that he was on the field, because if I remember correctly, Bennett was that big kind of guy with the long arms and the big mitts and the guy.
No, he was like a Matt Milano type coming off the edge on the outside. He was not a lineman. He was just really fast.
Tall? Taller than Milano. Had to be.
Maybe.
I just think of guys that can get up there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You want guys that are going to get up there, jump, get their arm up, get their paw up, try to affect that kick in any way. I just remember seeing Edmonds out there every time that the special teams unit was on. I'm like, Edmonds is out there because he's that guy. He's the predator. He's just got these massive wingspan, and if he gets up there, he could actually affect that play.
Well, I guess my take is, let's actually draft guys in case there are injuries that you feel good playing at linebacker, or that Steeler playoff game, like, oh boy, Klein is out now. Tyler Matakevich is actually in, and you hadn't exactly closed the deal at that point.
Yeah, I wonder if they draft guys thinking that they are good football players and that they can contribute, but they just end up playing special teams because that's a way to get them on the field. Like, you like Matakevich because he says all the right things, and he has the work ethic, and he's a good culture guy, and he's a McDermott guy, and I'm pretty sure he wrestled in high school. But all of that being said, he's a good enough guy to be on the field for special teams. But yeah, you're not going. He was a good enough football player to make the team, but the only way you're making the team is if you say, "Hey, this is going to be your specialty."
Well, bring me back to Cam Lewis. I don't see it. I know I've heard
they're going to sign him, dude. They're going to sign him. You know they're going to sign him. He's a University of Buffalo guy. We only see the negative plays with Cam Lewis.
Well,
and
Cam looked pretty big one. Hey, there's Justin Jefferson, or hey, it's a big game against the Dolphins.
But on special teams, is anybody paying attention to what Cam Lewis does well or doesn't do well?
Yeah, he ran into the punter against Miami, and that game Buffalo needed a couple of years ago. So yeah.
I just think that. If they let him walk, I'd be surprised. Like, that feels like exactly the kind of guy that you're rallying against, and it feels like exactly the kind of guy that they'll bring in and be like, well, he does some really good things for us, not just on the defensive side of the ball, but also in special teams.
I think it's Sean McDermott's blind spot.
Special teams guys?
Yeah.
Because it's what he was.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, he'll always have a soft spot for the Tyler Medikaviches of the world. I'll buy into that. And maybe every now and then it works. I mean, let's face it, Christian Benford hasn't been too horrible of a mistake.
Well, no, like Benford's first camp, everybody's like, whoa, actually, he's actually pretty good.
Right, but a guy who was kind of unheralded, a Villanova guy, kind of under the radar, chip on his shoulder, has the same kind of DNA that you always hear about McDermott. Yeah, and you know, if you wrestle, that helps too. Here's what would be surprising to me. If Brandon Beane does go big game hunting in free agency, I would be surprised. But if there was one player that the Bills should target, that player, big name player in free agency that they should target is unquestionably Chris Jones, defensive tackle, Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm saying this knowing that Jones, from all indications, wants to stay in Kansas City, but the Chiefs' offer could be still a little bit less than what the Bills or any AFC rival would offer him. He's such a difference maker on defense that for a team to get him at a bargain or on a hometown discount, like Kansas City's trying to do, it seems ridiculous. I'd love to see a team, preferably the Bills, make an offer to Jones that makes his decision to stay in Kansas City a tougher one. You strengthen your team, you weaken your rival. The Bills, they need to have that mindset here this league year when it begins next week.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the double whammy, right? Like, you don't have to face him, and, hey, we're pairing him against Ed Oliver. Would you sign up for that, and then you have nothing left over, and, hey, good luck with Cam Lewis, Taylor Rapp, and these two rookies in the safety position, and, oh, our offensive line is worse?
I wouldn't have entertained any of this before Von Miller restructured his deal. Now I'm like, well, what are you going to do? I mean, Daquan Jones is nice, don't get me wrong.
No, but it's a fantasy from this standpoint. Hard to imagine Kansas City not stepping up. Hard to imagine Jones saying, you know what, the money's just a little bit better here in this place. Oh, by the way, Danger, if you're just doing this solely for the money in New York State is not equal to the money in Missouri. We know this. On the back end, I'm talking about as you're doing your taxes during the Oscars Sunday night. That is this weekend, by the way.
What, the Oscars?
Yeah.
No idea. Really?
Yes.
Oh, who cares?
How did I know that was coming my way?
The Spot Track has his market value at an annual salary average of $28.4 million, Chris Jones. So is he a $30 million a year player?
Well, the bonus is the thing. Watch the bonus. That's where, look, it may not end up being Buffalo, but we just need him to go elsewhere. That would be a massive win if he doesn't go to Kansas City.
If he went to the Chargers.
Great.
Yeah.
Anywhere else.
Yeah. I hope that there are teams in the AFC looking at Chris Jones and saying, why are we just going to give him back to Kansas City? He's out there, and if we can get him, why wouldn't we try and get him? Throw him a number that throw him an offer he can't refuse. Hey, too bad he's not Italian.
Well, how much cap space does Jerry have in Dallas? Hey, Chris, come on.
Right.
What was the lowest point of the Buffalo Bills drought era.
Ooh.
I would contend it was Doug Marrone quitting on New Year's Eve without having another job lined up.
Yeah, that was bad.
Hit the embarrassing soundbite.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah.
I would say that one is up there.
Embarrassing!
I would say, I know that there are more embarrassing moments of this, but I mean, were you not just disgusted the day that Doug Whaley was talking about how he wasn't privy to any of the conversations going on about the coach being fired?
Embarrassing!
Like, you're the GM of the team and you're saying you're not involved? What are we talking about?
Why are you even up there?
No wonder we haven't been able to crawl out of this drought. This is an incompetent manager in a role within this organization that is completely dysfunctional.
I bring this up because we have this other drought going on. Yes, we can say that out loud, the Sabre drought. What is the lowest point to date? And sure, you could say this is recent. I contend it's right now. Yes, there are fans back in the arena, but half of them, let's be honest, are coming down from Canada. What I sense here, Danger, is apathy. It's like people just don't really care about the Sabres. They don't have the passion. And to the person on the radio yelling at me right now saying, who cares? I hear you. Today is the trade deadline day. And for the Sabres, okay, they traded away two guys, and it's a meh. It's a low point.
It's an absolute Francesa.
Who cares?
You're right. The NHL trade deadline meant something when we cared about what the outcome was with this team, and we're beyond that.
Goody,
now.
we have a 4th rounder and a 7th rounder, and like the 7th defenseman from the Charlotte Checkers coming to Rochester.
My favorite thing was Kevin Adams talking about how Zemgus Girgensons was too important to the fabric of the team for him to be dealt, and he's glad that he's sticking around.
What is this fabric you're talking about? What fabric is this?
Loser fabric?
Yeah.
This fabric is the 80s mesh jersey that we used to wear. Yeah,
Corinthian leather. What is this? Yeah.
No, fine Corinthian leather is what they have right now in Florida.
Oh, okay.
The fabric we're talking about here is burlap. That's the fabric we're talking about. It's a potato sack. You maybe have seen your kids use them on field day. That's the fabric of this team that we're talking about. It's not fine Corinthian leather. I can't believe it. What an unbelievable lie. He's too important to the fabric of the team.
Translation.
Zemgus Girgensons?
Translation, nobody wanted him, so we
tried to get him for a box of envelopes, and everybody said, no, we're good. No office supplies needed here. You couldn't get rid of that guy? Too important to the fabric of the team. Get out of here. Yeah, that was a great penalty he took within the first few minutes of the game last night. If you want to talk about why you don't put players on the ice during the trade deadline, it's for reasons like that. That's the guy you want to trade for, the guy that makes a boneheaded interference call within 5 minutes of the first period. Get out of here.
All those scouts looking up, just
Nope.
Cross off the list.
Oh, but hey, Eric Johnson has some value, though. We haven't seen him skate for the last week or so. So let's go ahead and make that deal done. You're right, Gino. It's a 0. And I feel horrible because I want more people to love hockey. I want more people to love the NHL. The NHL doesn't do itself any favors, but I'm so enthusiastic about games. I'm always watching a game. I feel like I'm always defaulting to which NHL game am I watching tonight, And when you watch other games outside, I say this all the time, but when you're fed a steady diet of Buffalo Sabres hockey, and that's all you consume, and then you watch another NHL game, it's like a different league. It's like,
of course,
that's what it's supposed to look like. I got it. Okay, good. Got a ways to go. Elena Getzenberg covers the Bills for ESPN, and it's been a wild week. We want to get Elena's thoughts and a couple of moves here for the Buffalo Bills. Today is Quentin Morris re-signs with the team on a 1-year deal, and we learned that the Bills get a 4th-round compensatory draft pick coming up here at the end of April. We'll discuss all of it with Elena next, and your phone calls are welcome as well at 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN.
update.
Some Bills news here in this hour. Team bringing back tight end Quentin Morris. And the expected third-round compensatory pick for the team ends up being a fourth-rounder. We'll talk to Elena Getzenberg, ESPN.com, coming up next year in the Sports Bar. The NHL trade deadline comes and goes. The Sabres making a couple of moves. Captain Calapozo goes to Florida for a seventh-rounder, and a defenseman that was playing in Charlotte by the name of Kali Colin. Eric Johnson gets traded from Philadelphia to Philadelphia, this for a fourth-round pick. The Amerks tonight hosting Syracuse. Head coach Seth Appert wants a physical team.
We've got to increase our level of physicality against them. We have to win more puck battles. It doesn't matter how talented you are if you don't have the darn puck. We haven't had the puck enough, and we're losing too many faceoffs, too many puck battles. So we need to increase that. We need to increase our level of physicality.
Gene Battaglia, The Fan, Rochester.
Top Shelf Sports Talk. You're hanging out in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
I feel, very confident in this organization, this team, and, felt like, it would be the best move to come back here and, spend the next few years here. So I'm super pumped about, making it happen, super pumped about, getting back to work. And, we got some unfinished business to take care of.
There's Buffalo Bills safety Taylor Rapp, who's one of the 12 players that saw some adjustment in their life back on Wednesday as the Bills work to get cap compliant. We welcome in Elena Getzenberg covering the team for ESPN. Elena, you've been on the beat for a few years now, and I know that nothing probably compares to the craziness of the DeMar Hamlin story from last season, or the season before, I should say. But where does Wednesday rank in terms of just how much activity and how much stuff you were chasing around the Buffalo Bills?
Oh, what are you talking about? It's been such a slow week in Buffalo sports. Just nothing going on at all.
Yeah.
No, Wednesday was crazy. I've never seen anything quite like that. It sounds like talking to people who've been on the beat for decades. There really wasn't a day that's compared to quite like this one where there's so many transactions in one single afternoon. So it was crazy. The Bills clearly decided that Wednesday was the day that they were going to decide on some of these things and move forward. So it's been a time, but I guess it's this time of year.
Yeah. Would you classify any of those moves as surprising, Elena?
I don't think there was one that I was that when I heard about it, I was like, oh my gosh, I never would have expected that. I don't think we reached that point. I do think the Mitch Morse release was the one that seemed to catch the most people by surprise. Especially, I think a pay cut is something he would have considered. So I think that is the one where it's like, okay, they clearly, felt confident in Connor McGovern there taking over that center spot. So to me, that's the one where it's like, I think they're losing a lot in Mitch Morse. But, with his cap hit and I guess his confidence in Connor McGovern, it's not as shocking. But I think to me, that's the one where it's like, okay, I'm a little surprised they actually did that one. The rest, unfortunately, it's some hard, emotional decisions, but a lot of them made a lot of sense for where this team is and kind of where their cap situation was.
Elena, when you see Brandon Beane kind of clear the decks the way he did earlier this week to get cap compliant, to know that there's probably still more that can be done here, do you anticipate that next week when the league year gets underway that he might actually be able to reel in a bigger fish than we thought he might be able to reel in before he made all these moves?
It's certainly now on the table. I think because we're going to see Josh's contract will be restructured at some point, and then there are some more moves that they could make to create even more space, because some of these were what were they going to do with Trey? Were they, actually going to make that move? And that money doesn't even come into account till June 1st. So, there's altogether they have a lot that created quickly without doing everything they had to. So, yeah, I think it opens that up. I still don't... we're not going to see, no move will be like signing Von Miller like they did, and at his age, not great, but, signing him, that big deal, we're not going to see something on that level, but I think it could be bigger than maybe they had foreseen, but I still think, there's only so much they can do because there are still a lot of needs on this roster, but I do think they have opened up more cap space with moves. And with more still to come, there are certainly more possibilities than there were.
And Elena, you mentioned Von Miller, and that, to me, I file that as a surprise that He accepted a pay cut. Now, mind you, I guess he could win back all these incentives if the Bills end up winning the Super Bowl and he ends up with double-digit sacks. But that I think a lot of Bills fans would sign up for in a second. Man, Brandon Beane is a negotiator. I want to read the book that he writes someday on how to do these things. How do you think that kind of went about there? Because certainly Von Miller didn't have to give back all that money.
I think the Bills, if Von Miller hits all those incentives, the Bills will willingly throw Von Miller, give him that money on a silver platter, it'll be fantastic for the Bills if he hits all of those incentives. I do think we're at a point with Von where the reality of his situation and coming off his performance last season is not a secret. The Bills have been publicly talked about how he didn't quite get back from that ACL injury that they wanted him to. He's also dealing with off-the-field issues. So I think, potentially moving on from him, I don't think we didn't quite get to that point, but I do think, that's how you negotiate those kind of pay cuts and reductions is listen, this is the situation with Von. We want to win. And Von has been, for someone who is, if you've heard him speak, very optimistic. I do think he also can see, the amount he was costing the team. He wants to be on a really good team. I do think having those kinds of conversations can then lead to things like this. It is an interesting one, but it's obviously that was a huge move because they needed that money, and obviously Von costing what he was going to with the performance that we, saw last season just didn't fit. So that was a big one, but I think that's how those conversations kind of go down. And, the reality of how teams are built, he's well aware of that. So that's kind of all goes into that sort of thing.
Lena, we heard from Taylor Rapp as we started our conversation with you. I want to talk a little bit about the Bills' secondary here at corner and at safety. When you move on from Jordan Poyer, it almost became essential to bring in a guy like Rapp just because he's got 1 year in Sean McDermott's defense, whether you think he's capable of replacing Jordan Poyer or not. And then of course, the post-June 1st designation for Trey White. Was there ever going to be a scenario where you saw the Bills bringing back Trey White to compete, to play with Benford and Douglas and potentially Kyer Elam?
I think there was a scenario. But I don't think this makes sense, though. I think it's really hard it's so unfortunate. You can't, it's nothing to Trey's fault, right? It's these injuries that were so fluke, to have them in that short amount of time he did. It's just the unknown. We saw coming off the ACL, how long it took him to okay, that looks more like Trey. That's kind of him feeling more confident. And then to have a second one, a different injury, but still lower body to the Achilles. It's tough because you just don't know how soon he'll be back out there, and to pay him obviously a contract extension they gave him way before the injuries, that's tough. So I think looking at the reality of it, when they traded for Rasul and looking at Trey's contract, it became much clearer that was a real thing on the table. As soon as the Rasul trade happened and he started playing well, it's all right, with the Trey contract combined, him not being here next year feels realistic and it might be the best thing they have to do. So I think they love him so much in that building, and obviously the circumstances are unfortunate. It was always possible he stayed, but the way Rasul played and, just the unknown with exactly how he'll recover, you just can't. We saw with Vaughn, we saw with Trey. You can't predict these things. So it just kind of made it, the best really solution, even though it's emotionally from a fan perspective and even inside the organization, a tough choice.
Yeah, Lena, a question here because I mean, under the guise of anything's possible, I suppose, but what is the likelihood that maybe one of these guys that was released goes out and they want to continue their career and they don't find what they're liking, and the Bills will bring him back at the number that maybe they were negotiating behind the scene? I look at Mitch Morse, and he's already putting out his social media his goodbyes, and he might have a sense that he's going to be, getting a good offer from somewhere else. But perhaps could Tre'Davious White fall into that category? Because honestly, with the injuries, I don't know if there's any team that's going to step up and pay him what he might think he's worth.
I don't think you rule it out. I don't think we can sit here right now and be never, ever. They would never do something like that. But it is interesting because when you decide to cut these guys, right, you end up with these dead cap. And it's, if you end up bringing them back, you have to start a whole new deal, and you're paying them whatever the new deal entails and the dead cap. And Some guys it's less, some guys it's more. So I think it does depend. I don't think we're in a spot where, like, oh my gosh, we should rule it out. Like, let's say, God forbid, someone else gets injured and Trey hasn't signed anywhere, and who knows? You don't rule those kind of things out, but I think right now, when they're releasing someone, it does have an impact financially. So re-signing them, like, soon after isn't really something to, like, plan for, but it could be, of course, reunions. We've seen the Bills reunite with many players, so I wouldn't rule that out.
Yeah, and we learned today, Elena, that Quentin Morris will be returning to the Buffalo Bills on a one-year deal. There's a long list of Bills free agents looking to find as much money as they can in the market here when the league year begins next year. Do you see Buffalo being done, or do you think that there are more guys from last year's roster that they'd like to bring back at hopefully a value?
No, I don't. I think it's still conversations. I think all of these guys, they're starting to have those conversations with teams, but we're not really going to get a sense on some of this stuff till next week when they're getting these offers, when a guy like Gabe Davis hears what's out there, what our team's offering him, what are they willing to pay? And yes, those conversations, while they're not supposed to, have already started happening and are ongoing. A guy like Daquan Jones, everyone would love them to bring back, but what offers is he getting? Are they waiting for another defensive tackle to get signed and the repercussions of that? So yeah, I think there's guys they're keeping conversations open with and would love to bring back, but first they had to get some of these moves done, and then you kind of a lot of these guys wanted to test the market. Like Gabe has been open about wanting to do so. So some of that is letting next week start and really seeing how kind of one piece falls and then, okay, another piece falls, and then you get more of a sense for how things are going.
Lena Getzenberg from ESPN, part of the NFL Nation Network, joining us here in the Sports Bar. The offensive line, what's next? And I'm just wondering, is this really going to be the plan? Because I don't recall Connor McGovern. You were there at the majority of practices, Elena. Have they actually worked him out at the center position? And the fact that Mitch Mort's leaving, it kind of creates a ripple effect, because now, you're going to have a new center and you're going to have somebody new at left guard, and even in the jumbo package, Edwards may not be doing that anymore.
It is kind of wild because in a 2-day span or whenever Ryan Bates was traded, it's all fuzzy at this point. This week has been wild, but they've moved on from their first and second center in a very short amount of time because Ryan Bates was the backup center. So yeah, it's going to be, they know what Connor McGovern brings as a center. It's not like they wouldn't have made this choice if they were like, I hope it works. That wouldn't be how it goes. But there is some unknown to this that I think was a really interesting choice, because it cannot be understated how remarkable it was that all 5 starting offensive line started every single game last year, and they played really well, as a whole, looking over the whole season. Of course there's moments, but overall it was a really good effort. And I think it's going to be a bit of a question mark because we are seeing some changes. I wouldn't be surprised at all if it's an area, at some point with these 11 draft picks, they add someone in the draft, if they sign someone else in free agency just to add depth, kind of in that jumbo package, like you said, if David Edwards is going to be competing for that left guard spot. So I don't think they're done there. I think they know how important that group is in protecting Josh and getting the running game going again this year. So that's where it stands right now. I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about more pieces, though.
Elena, I'm not going to speak for Gene. It's me, Danger. I'm going to say this. I know you're smarter than me, so I'm going to need your help explaining to me why the Bills are getting a 4th-round compensatory pick instead of a 3rd-round compensatory pick that we all thought they were going to get today.
Yeah, it was Brandon Beane said they were expecting a 3rd, so everyone's kind of scratching their heads. It's based on a formula, and it is it's an interesting one because it depends on who you sign and who you lose. And it does seem like part of this, looking at what the NFL sent out today, is that playing time is contributed to that. And they had the Bills additions as Deontay Hardy and Connor McGovern. And I think Connor McGovern's playing time couldn't have helped with this because he played so much. And that was probably part of the formula. They don't give us the literal formula, so it's a little hard to state exactly. But
let me ask you this, because we know that Tremaine Edmonds went to Chicago and he was certainly a part of this formula, but Edmonds was, I hope you're sitting down, he was hurt for a period of time as well. Could that have been part of the reason why they went from 3rd to 4th?
Sure, it's a contributing factor. It's all based on a formula. So yes, his playing time also is relevant in this. The mark, how this is stacked against other signings. So it's not just what the Bills do. It's more of a league thing as a whole. So it's not just like, oh, as soon as Tremaine Edmonds was signed by the Bears, the Bills immediately had a third-round pick. It's like part of a formula, and it's compared to the rest of the league. And like I said, playing time's part of it. Honors are a part of it. So, other players may have been ranked more highly, and it pushes the Bills down and all that kind of thing. So it's not a simple, oh, yeah, Tremaine Edmonds, third-round pick. I think maybe it came off, but it's definitely a disappointment because they now only have one pick on day 2 right now. And obviously, we know Brandon Beane won't be surprised if that changes, but that's kind of where it stands right now. So definitely we're hoping for that third-round pick.
Yeah, no pick in the third round, but now with the Ryan Bates trade from earlier, 11 picks overall, Elena. And Brandon Beane, with the exception of the year that they drafted Ed Oliver, he has moved up every year in the first round. So we're coming off the weekend of the Combine. Can we expect now Brandon Beane to actually move up a little bit in the first or maybe the second round and get the wide receiver that he so chooses? Or, and there's this other train of thought, hey, you just let go of all these guys. There's actually there's some needed depth here. What a good way here with all these extra draft picks. I mean, what do you think the philosophy here is, Elena?
I don't think anything would surprise me at this point, which is not helpful at all. I know there's we'd all love to have an answer and that kind of thing, but sitting at 28 is interesting because, right, it's 28, I think so, or 27, something like that. Someone will correct me, I'm sure. 28. But wherever they're sitting, thank you. I didn't have confidence in myself. 28. Sitting all the way back there, a lot of this is out of their control, right? Because they almost have to see, okay, how are things going to develop ahead of us and that kind of thing. I think everything I've heard, I'm not a draft expert, but everything I've heard is the wide receiver class is stacked. So I think, is it moving up a couple spots to get their guy? Would that surprise me? No, because like you said, they've done that every year. I think moving back scenario would only happen as we get really, really close to the draft or on the day of if the guy they want's not there. But there's all the possibilities there, which is not helpful, but the 11 picks opens up more. Yes, they wanted a third today, would have been great with the comp pick, but they have so many draft picks, and like we discussed, Brandon Beane loves to move around, so I think the table's kind of open to let the guy they want either come to them, or if he's not there, they'll have that opportunity to move back, maybe get another day 2 pick. I think there's a lot of flexibility with what they can do.
Are there any names that you've heard from the Combine that you think that Brandon Beane and the Bills wouldn't want to leave Detroit without at the end of April?
I'm not going to throw any out there right now, but maybe check in a couple weeks so we can start having more of that conversation. I do think we're still looking at there's a lot that's going to happen still with this team before we even get to the draft. I think these next couple weeks will still be very interesting, and then maybe we can have a fresh view of what the draft might entail.
There is no off season in the NFL, Lana. Sorry. It's you're going to be working on through. What can our listeners go check out this weekend from you and ESPN.com?
Yeah, there's no break at all. The NFL decided that it wants to be in the news all the time, and so here we are, talking constantly. So on ESPN.com, we got a bunch of stuff from this week, obviously. After the week it was, stories covering all of the moves, kind of what it means, and then also something to keep an eye on throughout the next couple of weeks. We've got one page that's got all of the signings in free agency, keeping a track of what they mean and all that kind of stuff. So we'll be busy. The Bills are busy. We're busy. Sabres are busy. Everything's happening right now, so there's no break right now.
All right. Well, Elena, hope you get the chance to take a breath this weekend and enjoy some time, and we'll catch up with you again here soon, hopefully before the draft. What do you say?
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Elena.
Elena Getzenberg covers the Bills for ESPN and ESPN's NFL Nation.
The Sabres have made another deal. Doesn't involve a Sabre. Devin Cooley goes to the San Jose Sharks. So Cooley, goaltender for the Amerks, you're not going to be playing him in the postseason here, right?
What do we get back? Bag of Fritos.
A 7th-round pick in 2025.
Wow, fantastic. That is awesome. I would have been more excited If you told me that they got a brick of cream cheese.
I wish, future considerations. That would have been funny,
yes,
too.
of course. All right. Congratulations, Buffalo. Yeah, it's all happening for this team, for the Sabres. Okay, let's not talk about them. Let's move on. Oh, yeah, it's just that Zemgus Girgensons is such an important piece of the fabric of this organization that we couldn't just part ways with somebody that's that important. But honestly, I wouldn't want a 7th-round pick anyways. We have enough.
What fabric? We talking polyester? What? I'm Googling cheap fabric right now.
We're going to get to happy hour here in a few. We have plenty of time for your phone calls at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Big NFL story today, or at least the guy that's commanding headlines right now. The Russell Wilson tour appears to be moving around the NFL. Took a visit with the Giants, reportedly visiting the Steelers as well.
He could be like the ultimate bridge quarterback because the team that signs him, you can get him cheap. I'm just thinking, is there a team like in the mid-teens, and I'm looking at maybe Minnesota, some team that could bring him in, but then secretly actually draft their next quarterback, and you can move on from Russell Wilson?
I think it's the Raiders.
Yeah, them too.
I think it's the Raiders. I mean, even if you believe in Aiden O'Connell, who won you some games last year, hey, kid, take a seat behind Mr. Unlimited for a season or two, and I don't know. I'm so down on the player that the team that does sign him, I won't, I'll feel pity for that team. And that includes the Bears. Like if the Bears were to sign, I don't know what universe would exist where he would sign it, but if you are of the belief that Caleb Williams shouldn't start day one, then you bring in a guy like Russ to play for a season and you go the Patrick Mahomes route like they did in Kansas City. I don't know that that's the best course of action, but maybe you want to keep a prospect behind glass to break in case of emergency while you're building the rest of the roster around him. We'll see, but at least there's a couple of teams that have shown interest in just taking meetings with Russell Wilson. The Giants, the Steelers, reportedly both taking those meetings with Russell Wilson here in the last 24, 48 hours. More on the Buffalo Bills getting Quentin Morris back for another season.
Yeah, and now that they do not have a 3rd-round pick, Atlanta pointed that out. Brandon Beane said, he was led to believe a 3rd-rounder, but this mystery formula does not go the Buffalo Bills' way.
Playing time matters. The compensatory draft pick formula needs to be thoroughly investigated. I need somebody to really, really break it down and explain it to me. Otherwise, I'm going to believe that the NFL is making it up as they go.
In soccer, when they put the mystery time up, that always drives me nuts.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a second, who made you? You're putting up 4 minutes.
Yes.
There. Like, why can't we actually say this when it happens? Like, why can't the NFL actually shine a light on this? We're smart. We can kind of figure this out. It's like, you don't need to know, actually.
Yeah.
How is it that San Francisco always manipulates this? They get 4. Finally, we get 1, and it's like, oh, it's a 4th-rounder.
Yeah. Well, maybe the fortunes change for the Buffalo Bills in the compensatory draft pick formula next season. We'll see, but it's a 4th-round pick coming up at the end of April for the Bills. We'll discuss that and more. Great show this afternoon so far with Elena Getzenberg joining us just now and Sal Mayorana, the DNC, stopping by during the 3 o'clock hour. We'll come back with Happy Hour next on The Fan.
You're listening to The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on 95.7 FM and AM 950. 9BF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
Couple of Bills notes today as tight end Quentin Morris coming back to the team. It's a one-year deal. The expected third-round compensatory pick for the Buffalo Bills will not be a third rounder. It'll actually be a fourth. NHL trade deadline, the Sabres organization making some moves today. Kyle Pozo goes to Florida for a seventh rounder and defenseman Kali Shalin. Shalin was with Charlotte. Meanwhile, Eric Johnson goes to Philadelphia for a fourth rounder. And Amber goaltender Devin Cooley just got traded. He goes to San Jose for a seventh rounder in 2025. The Amberks are on the ice tonight. It's the front end of the home and home. Syracuse, the opponent. Don Stevens and Andrew Mossbrooks will have your call here on the Fan beginning at 7 o'clock. RIT is home tonight. It's game one of the Atlantic Hockey quarterfinals. Robert Morris is the opponent. Gene Battaglia in the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Taylor Rapp has officially signed. I don't think he started caliber.
Mike Danger.
Gino Cash. And Fat Wallet White Johnson.
Then welcome to the Sports Bar.
Gene Battaglia.
When it comes to our identity as a sports town, it is the Buffalo Bills. At what? Do you want to say 90, 95%? That's what moves the needle and everything else? I'm not exaggerating.
Romero dribbles in. Shot blocked. Oh my goodness. What a rejection by Anthony Edwards to save the game.
Dude smashed his dome on the rim.
It's hurting real bad, and I landed on my wrist.
As Karl Anthony Towns was reportedly opting for surgery on his left meniscus.
Sabres fall 4-2 to the Predators.
The NHL trade deadline.
We have a trade to announce.
A Pozo deal.
The Florida Panthers.
Amerks Crunch starting at 7 tonight.
Playoff-bound Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Your opponent being Robert Morris.
It's a great night to be a Tiger.
Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs?
For us, it's going to be just focusing on ourselves, getting off to a good start.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Happy hour in the sports bar. We appreciate you making us part of your weekend plans. Thanks for listening locally at 95.7 FM, AM 950 on your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan or the free to download Odyssey app. We've also got the video stream up and rolling. You can watch the sports bar at The Fan Rochester on Twitch and also our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester. While you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment as well. I am Danger. That is Battaglia. I'm doing my best here while we had the time during the break to try and figure out how the Bills went from what they thought they were getting in a third-round compensatory draft pick into a fourth-round compensatory draft pick. This formula is voodoo.
It's some big mystery that you, the public, cannot know.
Well, let me explain some of what I've learned here about these comp picks. And we mentioned it. The Niners and the Rams were each given 5 compensatory draft picks. Now, per league policy, no team is supposed to receive more than 4 compensatory picks in a single season. However, there is a special compensatory selection awarded to teams as a result of having a minority employee hired away by another club as a head coach or a general manager.
D'Amico Ryans, Morris with the Rams. There you go.
Okay.
Yep.
The rules for compensatory draft selections, a team losing more or better compensatory free agents than it acquires in the previous year is eligible to receive those draft picks. That's per the NFL policy. It's based on salary, playing time, and postseason honors. Not every free agent lost or signed by a club is covered by the formula. Clubs that suffer a net loss of compensatory free agents during the prior free agent signing period are eligible to receive a corresponding number of compensatory selections. I still don't understand it, but for some reason the Bills went from a third to a fourth. And if I had to guess, I know that Tremaine Edmonds didn't. I think he did miss some time last season. I don't know that there were any honors given out to any of the potential compensatory free agents that would have qualified for this. So maybe that's what it was.
He missed one game with the Bears.
Yeah.
One.
How many did Connor McGovern miss?
None.
That's right.
Wow.
I mean, it might just be as simple as that. I'm not sure.
Well, but then you paid Edmonds more than McGovern?
Yeah.
Why can't they just tell us? If you ask me, hey, Gene, explain the QB rating, I couldn't. You just kind of take it for what it is. But if I dug into it for a day, I'm sure I could explain it to you. Why can't they do this? It can't be that difficult, Danger. Well, Brandon Beane got faked out by this because he at the combine mentioned third-round pick.
Yeah, he thought he was getting a third. Instead, he'll get a fourth, the 133rd overall pick in April's NFL draft.
So they'll have... No, they will not have back-to-back picks, but pretty close because remember, they got the top one in the 5th round from the Ryan Bates trade.
Yeah. So both the Niners and the Rams get themselves a little extra kiss from the league, getting that extra comp pick for having their minority employees move on to be a coach or a GM with another organization. That's and the Eagles got 4. The Eagles got 4 as well.
Always. It's always the same teams. If you're wondering, did New England get any? No. Did Miami get any? No. Jets got 3, but it was a 1-6 and 2 7s.
All right, so here's my trivia question for you, Gino, and anybody listening at 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN. When the picks were first given, when this became a thing in 1994, which team has received the most compensatory draft picks?
I like to take a shot at the trivia, Mike Danger.
Yes, Gino Cash. Go ahead.
I like to say San Francisco.
It is not San Francisco.
Okay, we'll go to the next caller. I like to take a shot, Mike Danger.
Yes, Mr. NFL. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Mr. NFL. I'm going to say, because even though none this year, and this jogged your memory when I brought up the New England Patriots, I'm going to go with the New England Patriots.
It is not the New England Patriots. Sorry, Mr. NFL. I can give you a hint. When I say this team, you'll be like, yeah, that makes sense. They're a well-run organization. They've had an elite GM during this window since 1994 and up until just a couple of years ago.
Elite GM, Ravens.
You got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
The Baltimore Ravens have been awarded 56 comp picks since 1994.
Wow. Mm-hmm. It's a big deal. We got one here. It's a 4th rounder. Yeah.
I know. The Jags will get the highest of the comp picks. They'll be picking the 96th overall pick, 3rd round. They'll have that pick.
So what you're saying then is we really need Gabe Davis to go somewhere, get a lot of playing time, and maybe get a Pro Bowl honor.
Can't hurt. Right. You know what would have been nice is if Leslie Frazier ended up as a head coach somewhere after last season. That would have worked. That gave the Niners and the Rams a little extra kiss there for this year's draft. Well deserved. So there you go. The Bills are getting a 4th, not a 3rd. Quentin Morris is back. It's a 1-year deal. The Quentin Morris news is like the biggest of Francesa's when you compare it to
who cares?
Everything else that went on this week with the Buffalo Bills. I don't want to believe that they're done, though. I think that this weekend, I imagine that there will be more signings.
Oh gosh, we haven't even gotten to the what's going on with Josh Allen's contract here. Right now, Spot Trek has the Buffalo Bills with $10 million to play, which really means they wouldn't be players here as things stand. That's enough to sign your draft picks, and that would be about it. And then you get the Trey White money, after June 1st. But if you all of a sudden say, "Hey, Josh, it's a bonus," okay, there's $22 million. If you really want to get aggressive, you could extend Deion Dawkins. You could extend Taron Johnson. How aggressive do the Buffalo Bills get here?
Do you want to, if you're Brandon Beane, do you want to go big game fishing? Do you want to go big game hunting? Do you want to pull in that big fish? You want to pull in that whale? I tell you what, if you're a team not named Kansas City in the AFC, I would be making Chris Jones think about it. Just make him think about it. Don't just automatically say, I'm going back to Kansas City. No. Make him think about it. Because not only are you making your defense better, you're making them worse. You're doing everybody in the AFC a solid while making your team better. Man, if there was one player that Brandon Beane should go after, if he has the wherewithal and the ability, financial ability to do it, that's the guy. Go right after your chief competitor. See what I did there? And get the guy that can not only make your defense better, but also hurt a rival at the same time.
Well, gosh, when Marcel Darius signed with Buffalo, it was like a record at that time. I'm trying to look up. You're not getting Chris. I hear what you're saying. The reality is,
it doesn't have to be Buffalo, but I would love it if it was.
Oh, my gosh.
Right. I would love it if it was. And when you consider what they did with Von Miller, right? When Von Miller signed, what was it, 6 years, $120 million? I mean, that was, we all fell out of our chairs at that figure.
So you're looking at
more.
Chris, you're looking at Aaron Donald numbers.
Yeah, you're looking
3
at
years, $95 million. Aaron Donald got, which, all right, the 3 years you're okay, but 95. How would you? Where would you fit that in? Look, we should root for some other team to say, you know what, that's the guy we really need.
Yeah, does any other team have the stones to do it? And not just the stones, but obviously you need to have the cap space. The Raiders. I mean, that's your division rival, man. You mean to tell me you don't think he would bring something to your defense? I think he would make all the difference in the world. Spot Track has his value at an average annual salary of $28.4 million. Be a lot. It is. You're talking.
It's just under the down.
You're talking elite money for a defensive tackle who's proven to be a game wrecker, a disruptor, and a difference maker. Without him, that defense in Kansas City doesn't go. It's not the same defense. You improve your defense, you weaken an opposing defense, you weaken your rival's defense. I want somebody in the AFC to step up and sign that guy.
Well, I think whether it's the point is here that the Bills, if you're going to go shopping, and again, Monday's going to be bonkers, we expect, not just for the Bills, but for the NFL. What are you doing next to Adam Oliver? Like, you have Daquan Jones right now ready to go to free agency. Do we expect the Bills over the weekend to say, hey, we brought back Daquan Jones? I think Bills fans would be like, okay, of all the guys, and I said this day one, that's the guy you got to bring back.
How many years? 2?
Yeah. He would do it.
He's old. Can you get somebody younger? Can you get somebody...
Well, that's where the draft comes into play, and that's what you and I have been saying all along is like brace for the Buffalo Bills to invest more on the line, whether that's tackle and maybe they trade up and get the guy from Texas. There are other options for the Buffalo Bills, but in the short term, always I'd like to point this out too, that in high school, Daquan Jones played Derek the Pizza Dude. There's got to be film somewhere on that of like Daquan Jones just manhandling Derek on there. Anyways, I digress. I always kind of find that funny.
Yeah, like I said, Spot Track has his average annual salary at $28.4, which puts him. I mean, Donald is still the highest. Donald is not the highest paid at that position or on the defensive line. You've got the Bosa boys in that neighborhood. Nick Bosa, with an average salary of $34 million. I mean, there are ways to make it work for a team that wants to not only improve their defensive line, but weaken the Kansas City Chiefs defense. I just hate that it feels like it's an automatic, like it's going to happen. Chris Jones is going to come back to Kansas City. No, make it tough for him. Give him a decision. Make him chase the money. Let him go after the money. We'll see.
Which I find that curious. I have a theory. Like, if you are Kansas City, why did you use the tag on a corner and not Chris Jones? I think most of us would recognize Chris Jones is an elite player. L'Jarius Sneed for 1 year was an elite player. Why wouldn't I think to get him back in last year, Danger, that might have been just the handshake. Look, agree to this. We will not tag you in 2024. 4.
Yeah, probably. The other storyline that's kind of developing throughout the NFL right now, Russell Wilson just sending shockwaves everywhere he goes, meeting with the Giants, reportedly meeting with the Steelers.
Shockwave. I kind of like a shrug. I think people that are all worried, if you're a Steeler fan, I don't want that guy. Don't worry. It's like the OBJ free agent tour. Russell Wilson has never been a free agent.
Except OBJ, everybody knew OBJ wanted money. And Russ wants money too, but Russ isn't going to get it.
No, but he wants to
He wants to start.
A starter.
Yeah.
Right. And I think if you were going to say, if you're a team in need of a quarterback, wow, wouldn't that be the ultimate bridge quarterback? A guy who's won a Super Bowl, I can't say Hall of Famer, maybe someday. I don't like his personality. I don't like how he's not coachable. Sean Payton's kind of a jerk, but I think that kind of came through last
Sean
year.
Payton knows. Russell Wilson sucks. Russell Wilson sucks. Off the field and on the field. He sucks.
So what is this all about, him taking this world tour?
I'll tell you what it's about. It's about value. Because if a team can get Russell Wilson at $1.5 million, you explore that. And you ask him, hey, can you knock it off? Can you play ball? Can you stop being a fraud?
So if he really is gonna go somewhere for $1.5 million, why did the Buffalo Bills rush to sign Trubisky?
Because Russ wants to start.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So who are these teams? Like if you're the Steelers, I wouldn't worry about, if you're a Steeler fan, worry about this. Same thing with the Giants. It's like Daniel Jones is the quarterback and maybe they draft somebody else. I look at a team like Minnesota, maybe Atlanta, the teams that Russell hasn't brought in. I'm trying to create this dummy market there.
It's funny to me that teams that could very well need a quarterback, and you could look at your quarterback room right now and say Russell Wilson's the best quarterback in the room. There are a handful of teams out there that haven't met with him or won't meet with him, and I think that speaks to the stench of Russell Wilson. He's like, we're not even going to entertain it. It's not worth it. It's a distraction. He's a cornball. His teammates hate him. His coaches hate him. Why are we bringing this guy in? He sucks. I don't think the Steelers. If the Steelers sign him, I'll be floored, Gino. Floored. That would be so un-Steeler-like. Although, if there was a coach who could get Russ to cut the S, I would say it's probably Tomlin.
When we come back on the air Monday, and legal tampering begins Monday, I'm going to make a prediction. I think the dominoes at quarterback will have at least a few. First off, Baker Mayfield stays in Tampa. I think a lot of us expect that. Then maybe next up, Kirk Cousins. Like, does Cousins go back to Minnesota? No. Does he go back to Atlanta? Florio will do a victory lap if that happens.
Yeah.
I'm getting to the point, and this is my roundabout way of saying, at what point Russell Wilson, does he have to wait then for who? For Ryan Tannehill? Does he have to wait for Justin Fields? I put him behind Fields, Danger.
I definitely put him behind Fields. In fact, if you were asking me to rank available quarterbacks, it's tough for me to put Mayfield ahead of Cousins. I want to put Mayfield ahead of Cousins. He has double the playoff victories.
Well, it's also about where the fit is. And it's a good fit in Tampa. I think that Baker Mayfield in Tampa would work. So you could say that's, okay, just push that to the side.
Fields over Wilson all day.
Well, if for nothing else, it's the upside. And Russell Wilson, I'm sorry, that's two head coaches. One guy, Pete Carroll, that will be in the Hall of Fame. Sean Payton, who's won a Super Bowl, pretty much uncoachable. Pretty much uncoachable.
Well, I think that you listen to the wins, and what you hear out of Chicago with Justin Fields is a locker room that loves their quarterback. They don't want to see him go. I mean, they understand the business of it, but they love him. They fight for him. He's a champion. We want that guy.
I saw that Wilbon take that this is the most divisive topic in Chicago.
No question.
Really?
No question. Because this is why I'm torn. I've been torn all week. Ever since we had Sal on, my head's been scrambled as far as what I want the Bears to do. And I think I I know I said I'm flip-flopping here. I know I said a couple of weeks ago they should trade the first overall pick and get a haul of picks and build around Justin Fields. But now I'm thinking, God, the allure of Caleb Williams is almost too good to pass up. How do you pass that up and give that to another team and watch that player become a star in the NFL knowing you could have had him? It's tough. It's tough. But back to my point about his teammates, they love him. When was the last time you had a teammate speak up on behalf of Russell Wilson or a coach? Talk about Russell Wilson glowing terms. And the last time you saw a coach talk about Russell Wilson was Sean Payton ripping his head off right before he benched him. Yeah, he needs an attitude adjustment. He needs to cut the S. And I don't think it's going to happen.
No.
I don't believe that he's going to change. I don't believe that the Steelers would want to put up with that. But Mike Tomlin would be a coach who could potentially manage that.
We have one basketball note here. I think Syracuse fans would find this interesting. It's not a Syracuse note, but for many years, Jim Boeheim, you had your heir apparent. It was Mike Hopkins. Hopkins stuck around. He stuck around to the point where, okay, screw this, I'm out of here.
He went to Washington.
He went to Washington, and he had a pretty good run. And a couple good players, including the kid from McQuaid. He just got fired. Mike Hopkins fired by Washington, so not sure if he's going to get another shot here.
All right, we'll keep tabs on that. I don't know. I mean, I know that the season was very inconsistent for Syracuse, but I feel overall you have to have a general sense of optimism, given that this was his first year, that this was Autry's first year, and then he's working with kids, and who knows what this roster looks like next year. But at minimum, you feel pretty good about the job that the coach did in his first year, climbing out of the shadow of a legend.
Yeah, that's suspending the one player. Hey, for that antic there.
It's a line in the sand.
Yeah,
that's it. We're building a culture.
Yeah.
You're either with me or you're not. It doesn't matter. We can win games without you, and they did. Ultimately, it doesn't look like they're going to win enough games. We'll see how they fare in the ACC tournament. But for his first year, I'd say Red Autry is a success as of right now. We'll continue to see how the rest of this year goes, but next year you have a little bit more optimism.
Look, if they get into the NIT, normally that's not anything to get excited about, but if you win one tournament game and you're kind of farting around the 6th or 7th team in the ACC, that's not good enough. The sad thing is the ACC used to be it.
Yeah.
You didn't even have to think twice about it. Now, that's no longer the case here, and ironically, I love it if the Orange are back in the Big East, but what are you going to do?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things would have to happen for that to be considered. Well, I'm not going to hold my breath, but that would be awesome because that very, it kind of like over the course of time just became a fun conference again. It was dead when everybody left, when all that realignment happened. It died. It was dead. And now it's back.
UConn's back.
Yeah.
Marquette.
It's back.
Yeah. Rick Pitino wearing his white suit last week.
You got to have a lot of swag to pull off a white suit, man. You have to have nads the size of Alpha Centauri. I don't understand. That guy can pull it off. You or I can't pull that off. That ain't happening.
Let's review here what we talked about here in happy hour here. If you're just getting in your car, and you can see where I'm going to go with this in 2 seconds, Danger. We started off with, hey, wait a second. The Bills ended up with a 4th rounder, not a 3rd rounder. Quentin Morris. We talked about the wacky compensatory formula. We talked about Bills free agency.
I don't want to talk about anything else.
Russell Wilson. Notice I pivoted to Mike Hopkins getting fired.
We don't have to talk about
Today was the NHL trade deadline. The Sabres made 3 moves. We are just dead inside as Sabre fans.
Yeah.
Dead.
Yeah. But Kevin Adams was holding back tears as he was talking about Kyle Laposo. Kyle Laposo's gone. It's really a hard day. Really, really hard day to move on from Kyle Laposo.
Zemgus Girgensson, why didn't you trade him? Well, he's really important to the fabric. Define fabric of Western New York, of Buffalo hockey right now. Define it.
Burlap. It's a potato sack.
Yes.
It's terrible.
Yes, in Vegas, rich Corinthian leather.
That's correct.
Buffalo burlap.
Yeah. You have teams that are contending that are sporting the rich Corinthian leather.
You traded this week your leading scorer and your team captain. And I hear you right now. If you're saying across the radio, Gene, I don't care, get on to something else. That's the point.
Oh, who cares?
That's the point. Should we be worried that, like, fan interest is turning to apathy? Because guess what happens when that goes?
Then you lose your team.
Yeah.
I'm nervous about it. I mean, the PSC kind of divided their assets, did they not, recently?
Why? Why did they do that?
Well, you have some flexibility, and you have a pretty big renovation that's needed at your arena.
Yeah, I haven't put anything into it. That went up, what, the 90s? Long time ago.
That could be somebody else's problem when it's all said and done. Let's just hope that somebody else doesn't decide to take the team and move it somewhere else. But you can't rule anything out. They've been bad for so long. This is a maddening season. Just wildly inconsistent. Not enough. You get the goaltending from UPL, and the rest of the team just...
If they only had goaltending...
They're just farting around out there.
Not even farting around, Danger. We're not farting around. They're done. And, okay, you traded Middlestat.
Oh, who cares?
Kid scores Byram the first shot last night.
Oh, who cares?
Yeah. Oh, and Connor McDavid comes into town tomorrow, which is ironic because, remember, the tank wasn't for Jack Eichel. It was for Connor McDavid.
Oh, who cares?
All right, now I need a round of shots.
Yeah, that's uplifting heading to the week.
Can we talk about the politics or something more uplifting than the Buffalo Sabres?
I'm going to put you in a good mood here, Danger.
Tell me.
Somebody is going tonight to the yacht club at Three Heads.
I'm so excited.
You need to go up on stage. If they invite you, give me your word.
No. I'm not a singer. I'm not a professional. I know some of these songs. That's not my gig. That's not my role.
For the sports bar, you should do it. And you'll have a few IPAs in you. I know you. At that point, you're going to be just like, okay, let's do this. Brandy, you're a fine girl.
I don't know, Gino. I don't know. Maybe if we got our subscribers on YouTube up, if we got to 1,000 subscribers, maybe I would say that's something worth celebrating. Get me up on stage and I'll sing along.
No, because tonight what will happen with the whole neighborhood Goombas there, they will say, come on up, Danger, and you're going to be like, no. And then the Danger chant will start, Danger, Danger, and then you'll have to go up.
Yeah.
And so what is your confidence level? You listen to a lot of yacht rock. Could you sing Brandy?
I think I could do a couple bars of Brandy, yeah. I'm pretty sure. Because my life, my love, my lady is the sea. By the way, what a great yacht rock song to showcase on International Women's Day. Hey, Brandy, working behind the bar, slinging drinks better than anybody else.
She pines over some guy that won't
loving
give her
a
the
guy
time.
who's not around. Yeah, that's the real independent spirit that we want on International Women's Day. Brandy, you're a fine girl. What a good wife you would be. But let me tell you something, lady. My life, my love, my lady is the sea. Yeah. Brandy. Looking Glass. I think they probably worked that into their set. I know that that's one of their songs, but I don't want to go up on stage.
Okay.
I want to enjoy a delicious IPA from Three Heads. I want to smile from ear to ear with every song that they perform. We're going to, give shout outs to our boy, Captain Obvious, Yacht Rock John, Sports Bar regular.
If the Tigers weren't playing, I would be there with you tonight, buddy.
I know. But you've got other commitments, and that puts you in a good mood. You're in a better mood when you're working.
I am in my element tonight.
You're in the zone.
It's not hockey. It's playoff hockey.
That's right.
We'll get to that story more coming up here in shots. The NHL trade deadline. We've got notes on that. Do you remember the story about the Jags employee who embezzled millions?
Yeah.
Oh, the prosecutors have laid things out here. This is just kind of comical.
Well, he was saying it was because he had a gambling addiction.
Well, okay, but it doesn't explain all this other stuff. Well, you be the judge.
Can I
here.
use gambling addiction for any other exquisite or extravagant expense that I might have? Well, I'm just certain lifestyle that I'm accustomed to here.
Yeah, I wouldn't advise that.
I know people that are that way. We've worked with people that are that way, actually.
And also, there's You could read about that in the news at some point, I'm sure. Maybe. Allegedly. World Baseball Classic last year. There's a Major League team that's going to take something from that, actually. We'll explain.
All right, we'll get to that and more. A round of shots on the way. Last call coming up as well. You can pull up a stool in the sports bar, 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. It's Mike Danger for FanDuel Sportsbook. We're the official partner of 95.7 The Fan. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Cashed that parlay last night for triple doubles for Luka and for Luka and Jokic. Love me some FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Visit FanDuel.com/Mike. That's FanDuel.com/Mike, MIKE, and shoot your shot. 21 plus and physically present in New York. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
Odyssey has sports for every fan. Keep up with your favorite
Update.
Some Bills news today as the team brings back tight end Quentin Morris, the expected third-round compensatory pick for the Bills. Not going to happen. It's actually going to be a fourth-rounder. NHL trade deadline, the Sabres made 3 moves today, sending the captain, Kyle Pozo, to Florida. This for a 7th-round pick and a defenseman who was playing in Charlotte by the name of Kali Shalin. Eric Johnson, he moves from Buffalo to Philadelphia for a 4th-rounder. And the backup goalie for the Amerks, Devin Cooley, he goes to San Jose. This for a 7th-rounder in 2025. The Rochester Americans tonight in action. They host Syracuse in the front end of the home and home. Don Stevens and Andrew Mossbrooks will have your call beginning at 7. Amerks also home on Sunday against Utica. RIT hockey tonight. It's game 1 of the Atlantic Hockey quarterfinals. Robert Morris is the opponent. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Bills fans, Odyssey is your home for football. Stay up to date on everything Bills, no matter where you are, with the Odyssey app and the sports leader, The Fan, Rochester.
All right, let's get to a round of shots here in the sports bar.
It was the NHL trade deadline today. One big one that happened just at the wire. Tomas Hertl, 25 third-round pick and a third-round pick in 27, go from San Jose to Vegas. This for a 2025 first-rounder and forward David Edstrom. Jake Allen is the new goaltender for New Jersey. He comes over from Montreal for a conditional pick. That's been the problem for the Devils this year. That pick could be a second-rounder for the Habs. Tampa Bay gets a defenseman, Matt Duma from Arizona, for 2 draft picks, while Yevgeny Kuznetsov, he's not going to be playing in Hershey after all. The parent team Washington today sending him to Carolina.
Carolina's sneaky good. Like, Carolina's making some moves here. It's like Florida, Carolina, Eastern Conference Final. That wouldn't shock me.
Does Kyle Pozo see playoff time?
That's the one, man. Like, as soon as I found out, he's being dealt there. Oh, you want to get him on a playoff team? Okay. My opinion, he's not good enough to be on the ice for that team. If there's an injury, sure. But remember when Bogosian got sent and he was part of the Lightning? And
gosh, I remember the whole thing. He got sent down to the Amerks. I'm not coming here, and then he ended up in Tampa, of all places.
And he was inactive for a lot of those games, right? Like, you're going to ride with the guys that got you there, and you can't really mess with that chemistry. Pozo has familiarity with Reinhardt, has familiarity with Montour. I wouldn't mess it up, man. I'd be like, hey, you're part of the team. You can certainly help us, but you're a healthy scratch tonight. I don't know. We'll see.
By the way, the Sabres lost again 4-2 to Nashville, but at least we had the new guy score, Bo Byram, the guy they got for Casey Middlestat, his first shot on goal in blue and gold.
It was a fantastic shot.
Yeah.
Absolute snipe.
By the way, if you missed that trade, we can't blame you. Buffalo is home tomorrow against Edmonton. You do have hockey tonight here in the Flower City. The Amerks, as we mentioned in the update, hosting a Syracuse team they haven't beaten here on home ice this year. That's a little bit of a problem. Don will be by at 7 o'clock with the call. The Tigers, RIT, taking on Robert Morris. Now, Robert Morris is the 11th seed. That's year 1 of their reboot, but they got a lot of portal guys, including a guy who was at Niagara and Chad Veltri. So Tigers will be ready for this one. Trust me. Game 1 tonight, game 2 tomorrow night, and if necessary, it'll be on Sunday. Mind you, Sunday we're all going to be in a fog because of daylight savings.
All right, come on. We're not going to use that as an excuse, right? It's 1 hour. We're all going to be okay. I know that.
Oh my gosh! What are you kidding me? It affects me. Like, I won't be regular until Wednesday.
I can't let that affect me. There's no way. I mean, I'm not really saying that we need it. Like, we need to mess with the clocks anymore. Like, I think it's kind of ridiculous that we still do it. But I am kind of excited to have it be light out at 5 o'clock or beyond 6 o'clock.
When you're running late on Monday, you're like, oh, yeah, bad take, Danger.
Is that what it's going to be?
Yeah.
Let's rifle through these outcomes here, because you're saying Sabres are playing.
I'm sorry,
Edmonton.
Yeah, Edmonton,
and that's a home game for the Sabres.
Right.
Feels like a loss. Amerks tonight.
Yes.
Feels like a win.
RIT tonight.
Feels like a win.
There we go.
All right.
There we go. Remember the story, Danger, about the Jacksonville Jaguar employee who embezzled millions? Prosecutors laying out their case that the guy, Amit Patel, has a gambling addiction. That doesn't exactly explain the condo in Florida, a Tesla, a Nissan pickup, a designer watch worth over $95, crypto, NFTs, and he also bought a Tiger Woods 1996 putter. A game used by Tiger, $47,000.
Nice.
His attorney says it was pushed all into crime because of his addiction. Now, the question I know everybody wants to know is, how did you pull this off? He oversaw the Jags credit card system, creating a duplicate system.
Wow. Is it embezzlement when you work for a company, but you don't really work, yet you get paid more than anybody else, and then claim poverty, or because you have to have a certain lavish lifestyle, you need to continue to make this ridiculous amount of money, even though you don't really work?
Where are we going with
I'm
this?
just asking, is that considered embezzlement? Because I feel like I know people in our industry who maybe have embezzled money.
Oh, well, I don't know how. It sounds like a crime to me.
What this guy's doing is probably a little bit more severe. I'll give you that.
Okay, yeah, I would think. Credit Mike Danger for his called shot. The parlay of Luka Doncic triple-double and also a Jokic triple-double at plus 950 hit. Box wine for everyone.
Everybody, I'm going to be buying rounds. I am going to be the most insufferable jerk, knowing that I've got an extra, little extra padding.
Well,
make
sure you go up to Mike Danger tonight at Three Heads and you congratulate him. Tonight there are 8 games in the NBA. The Knicks hosting Orlando, doubleheader on ESPN. Timberwolves and Rockets at 7:30, followed by the Bucks and Lakers at 10. If you're curious what the game is on ABC tomorrow night, that's Celtics and Suns.
No longer Mike Danger. It's Fat Wallet Wide Johnson. After I hit that parlay. Walking around today like Fat Wallet Wide Johnson.
That was the first thing I looked for this morning. I'm like, holy cow, because I knew Luka did it.
Yeah.
Went to bed, and then, wow. Finally, it was this time last year that we had the World Baseball Classic. And the games were good. We warmed up to it eventually. And one of the reasons, the atmosphere for these games, unlike anything we had for a regular Major League game, well, one Major League team is trying to take from that and trying to add some life to their games, really a dull venue, if you ask me. Beginning this season, the Miami Marlins will allow fans to bring in musical instruments to the game. With the large Latin American population in Miami, that should be fun. Also, I cannot wait for Mets fans to blare Timmy Trumpet when New York has a lead going into the bottom of the ninth.
I kind of dig this, and I hope it takes off. I like that baseball games could sound more like soccer games.
Yeah.
That would be fun. Here's your Timmy Trumpet.
You hit the post.
Of course I hit the post. It's a reflex. It's an instinct. The internal clock always going in my head.
I just want ones where you flub it.
Keep waiting, pal. This is he's back this year, right?
He's back.
Yeah. How are we feeling?
Yeah, well, that's the feel he got hurt on.
Yeah.
How am I feeling? Calm, reserved.
Just checking.
Everything's going to be fine.
All right. I'm just checking. I'm got to make sure. Got to check
Everything's
in on
going to
you,
be fine. It's like, I know for radio, this is boring, Gene. We can't have you like this. I'm fine. I'm going to be
It's not good for the show. I mean, it's flat out just not good for the show.
It's better for me personally that I manage everything, and I'm not going to get excited at a 3-game winning streak, and I'm not going to get angry at a 7-game losing streak.
Even keeled and calm.
Everything is going to be okay.
Sure is. We get the last call next at 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN as we close up shop next and look ahead to next week. The NFL league year gets underway. Legal tampering on the way Monday. We'll get to all of that and more next in the Fan.
In the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
I think the strength of their team is actually both their goalies, but both of them have experience. Both are fifth-year players. One, Veltri, that we know very well, and we're anticipating on being the starter, but played for Niagara and has had some great games, and really was the reason why they also beat Bentley. And then a boy by the name of Boisvert that we're also familiar with from recruiting, but played for St. Lawrence. So it starts with their goaltending. They've got some familiar names up front that does some of the scoring, but then they have a lot of young players as well on their team. So for us, it's going to be just focusing on ourselves, getting off to a good start, getting momentum. It's best of three is a very quick series in regards to how series are played, so we want to get off to a good start.
There is no shortage of action if you're a hockey fan in the Flower City tonight. We have Rochester Americans hockey coming up at 7 o'clock. Syracuse in town. They're at Blue Cross Arena. Don Stevens will have the call. You just heard RIT men's hockey coach Wayne Wilson as they begin their quarterfinal matchup here at Atlantic Hockey. Robert Morris Colonials coming in.
Yeah, Tigers are ranked 19th. So is this the year they get back to the NCAA tournament? Look, the home ice, that's the difference here. These tournaments were played on the neutral ice for the semifinal and the final. Coming out of the pandemic, you know what? Now let's just make it the home ice. And the idea that the Tigers take care of business this weekend, the next weekend, and I'm getting ahead of myself, the idea that you actually could host the championship game with a berth to the NCAA tournament on your own campus arena.
Atlantic Hockey used to go neutral site. They don't do that anymore.
Correct. They would bring it downtown, and what they realized real quick is that, hey, the Tigers in there, people come out. If the Tigers aren't in it,
nobody comes out. I
called the game Air Force and Army, and
not a great look.
There was only 1,000 people there.
Yeah, it's not a great look.
Yeah, but that's not a Rochester thing. I mean, it's just right. Like it's Atlantic Hockey. Like we're not Boston. It's not hockey.
Gotcha. That's tonight. Gino's got that call. But yeah, as I mentioned, the Amherst tonight hosting Syracuse, and as we do every week, we'll have Amherst head coach Seth Appert join us on Tuesday with a recap of all of this weekend's action, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday games for the Rochester Americans. You can hear all of it here on the Fan Rochester, your proud home of Rochester Americans hockey.
So Russell Wilson's meeting with the Steelers, it's happening right now. Hey, Friday afternoon, we're approaching free agency, so Russell Wilson, who apparently was in New Jersey, talking to the Giants. I mean, you probably fly, right? You're not driving across the state. I would think, that's.
I think Russ has enough bank to maybe, get himself a little jet from Jersey to Pittsburgh.
Does he have an entourage with him? I mean, he has his agent, I assume. Is his wife coming with him on the, going from the Giants to the Steelers?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the package, right? You're not just getting Russ, you're getting Russell Inc. You're getting everybody.
Where's the paparazzi? Don't you want the shot of him walking into the Steeler facility?
You mean that vaunted Pittsburgh paparazzi contingent?
Well, he's the type of guy that would love that.
Of course he would.
He's never been a free agent. He can kind of ham this up.
Well, we'll see if anything really breaks here with the start of the league year getting underway next week. Illegal tampering gets underway Monday. Monday, we will be back to recap all of this weekend's activity and begin to discuss some of the deals that are going to emerge from the legal tampering window opening up at the start of the new NFL league season. If you missed Elena Getzenberg covering the Buffalo Bills for ESPN or Sal Mayorana, the DNC, both conversations available wherever you get your podcasts. Search out the Sports Bar and you will find all of our guest appearances and shows listed for you there. We also love it when you like and subscribe wherever you enjoy the Sports Bar. That includes YouTube, our channel at The Fan Rochester, and our stream on Twitch at The Fan Rochester as well. Fun afternoon, fun week, memorable week for the Buffalo Bills. We're back on Monday to start it all over again. Gino, have a great call tonight. An excellent weekend.
All right, get up on stage, Dan.
We're going to some real classics tonight at Three Heads. JR next on The Fan.
You're listening to the Sports